Pod Mortem would like to thank Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Original Cinematic is an independent production company that has made it their mission to create, produce, and promote films that are inclusive, honor women, promote the LGBTQIA+ community, and provide prominent positions and roles to POC actors and filmmakers, and promote the films of marginalized and underrepresented populations. These are all things that are extremely important to our podcast as well.
Original Cinematic is currently accepting scripts and treatments. Both William and Xxena Rush are available via email or Zoom to discuss writing and provide input and resources to all aspiring writers, free of charge. Their information will be made available in the show notes. There may be delays due to a hectic schedule and all projects being read on a first-come, first-served basis, but everything will be read and responded to. William Rush has individually produced numerous projects, including Pack is Here, Before, The Cottage, The Winemaker, and Day by Day. Their multi-award-winning film Group premiered and was celebrated at multiple film festivals as well as screenings, both in person and via Zoom, that were made graciously available to us and our patrons.
Original Cinematic has many exciting projects on the horizon. Their next film, Immersion, has been completed. The award-winning Sweetener is in development, Fetish begins shooting in September, and Encore will begin next spring. Their documentary Women in Conversation is slated for a September release, and we are looking forward to each and every one of them. It is truly an honor to partner with Original Cinematic, and we can't thank them enough for their contribution to our show. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Salutations! Welcome to Pod Mortem. I'm Reneé Hunter Vasquez, joined as always by my co-host, my husband, and my brother.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
Hi, I'm Travis Hunter.
This week, we are recording live from the bustling streets of Tokyo, Japan, discussing the 2004 supernatural horror film, The Grudge. This film was directed by Takashi Shimizu with a screenplay by Steven Susko, based on the original film, Ju-on the Grudge, written by Shimizu. When Ju-on the Grudge landed in the hands of American producers and the film both impressed and frightened them, a remake was imminent. Returning to his role as director for this new version gave Shimizu the opportunity to explore his ideas in a new way, while still remaining faithful to his original story. Despite knowing very little English, Shimizu took the helm of his first American film with the skill and success that catapulted The Grudge to a status of reverence among many horror fans. This film was requested to us by friends of the show, Sidem, Brandon Brown, and Jack Lee Ray. We want to thank each of them for their support as well as this suggestion. This film was also the winner of our August Patreon poll, so thank you to all of our patrons who participated and voted. If you want to help us pick an episode, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/thepodmortem. So, what did you guys think of The Grudge the first time you saw it?
I know I didn't see this in the theaters. I remember I watched it when it came to DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it quite a few times, but I remember like really, really enjoying it. And there's a lot of really good visuals and the scares are there. Watching it now, I do still enjoy it. Watching it for the show, there is some things you do notice that do kind of stand out a little more. Looking at it with a critical eye. The movie is still really good. It's fun. I enjoyed it. But I think there was a little bit of a difference watching it now as being a little older.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely felt that as well. It is very interesting. We are discussing this film 20 years after its release. And I do remember we did go see it in theaters with our parents, and we were kind of blown away by it.
Mm-hmm.
I know at the time, at like age 13, it was one of the scariest fucking things I've ever seen in my life.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
And me and Nay would make that sound and scare the hell out of each other all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like it felt, I mean, as much as it can feel when you're 13, it felt like a cultural moment.
Yeah.
Everybody had seen this film. Everybody was talking about this film. It was the scariest thing anybody had ever seen. And so we watched the hell out of it when it was on DVD as well.
Yeah.
I will say, as an adult returning to this film, I feel like I'm in the same boat as you, JP.
Okay.
I thought, and if you had asked me, like, before I started watching it again,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, The Grudge? Yeah, it's one of the scariest films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the hell out of it. But as I'm watching it, I'm like, there are a lot of really good moments.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot of great and iconic visuals, like you said.
Yeah.
Some really scary sounds, sound design, great production design.
Yes.
The music's great. But there is something, and I love nonlinear storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of my favorite things when it's pulled off the way that I enjoy very much.
Yeah.
Something about this film feels very disjointed to me.
Okay.
And as I'm watching it, and I don't know if anybody has said this before, if they have, I've arrived at it independently. Some sections feel like short films within this film, to me.
I can see that.
Okay.
And I feel like I really like these little short films within this film,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know how cohesive this film is as a film.
All right.
Like, I don't know. Maybe part of it is just the fact that I kind of, and it sounds rude,
Right.
I kind of don't care about anyone.
No, I'll be honest. I don't know if it's not so much about care as that we don't get enough from them. Not to not care, but it's kind of like, well, I don't know enough about you. I haven't spent enough time with you to kind of know any characteristics or anything about you for me to be like, well, that was a damn shame.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's ever good about them. You know what I mean? The monster or whatever of a horror movie killing somebody. But there are ones that we do, like you're saying, spend time with and we get to know. We do cheer for them or we do root for them or whatever.
Yeah.
But in this, no, I agree with you. I don't feel enough time is spent to be like, oh, damn.
And that's kind of where I get this short film vibe, because you do kind of get in short horror films, like horror shorts on the internet that you see, they're like 3-5 minutes long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You get like a really great collection of moments leading to an impactful scare, and it's very well made.
Yeah.
But that's really kind of where it ends for me here.
Okay.
Like, there's a scene that is maybe one of my favorite sequences in horror ever, but it doesn't really amount to much narratively.
Right.
Okay.
You know? So, I mean, I don't know. It's a real mixed bag on this one. I was really shocked and a little upset coming back.
No, I mean, that's fair.
But the scares are great. And there is such a powerful nostalgia that it kind of, I see myself watching this again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with both of y'all. The nostalgia is very, it holds a lot of weight for me, just in general. And The Grudge it's nothing different. You know what I mean? But looking at it critically, I do, like you were saying, T, I like the non-linear of it all. Non-linearness of it all. I just feel like there are things that are started here that maybe feel like arcs. There's one character in particular that I really like. It felt like we were going to go on a journey with them, and we don't. There's another character that I don't think needs to be in this film at all. There are just, it almost feels like wasted opportunities for certain characters, or even like just certain things that it feels like are being set up. And you saying short film, it actually makes a lot of sense, and we'll get to that in a minute, but phrasing it that way, it makes sense. It's almost like this collection of things that are all happening.
Yeah.
But do they seamlessly fit together? I don't know.
Almost like they're acts and
Yes.
they're leading up to
Yeah.
something, but they don't.
Yeah. I feel like the story that's being told, and off mic, we were talking earlier about a director's cut, and obviously there is Ju-on. I started watching it to compare and contrast, and then I was like, we might cover that on its own. So I don't really want to do that. But this story is so intense and grisly, and there are moments where it feels like we are robbed of the gravity. Maybe I don't want to say like it needs to be gratuitous or anything, but there are moments, and we always talk about how we appreciate in films where you feel like you saw more than you did, and I don't get that here. I feel like I didn't see any. I didn't see anything, and I feel like I didn't see that. If that makes sense.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Not that I want to see it, but you know what I mean? Like, the story that you're telling is so heavy and so horrific that it feels a bit, maybe I'm thinking like sanitized.
I think that's fair, and that's probably for the PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
Do you feel as well? I feel such a conflicting thing about this film where it feels like on one hand, things are happening way too fast.
Yes.
And on the other hand, there are like stretches of feeling like nothing is happening.
Yeah. That's another thing is the pacing, which is odd because there are moments, I think it's the moments of horror. Like, I think I know what scene you're referring to that you said you really, really love.
Yes.
Moments like that, it's pitch perfect. But then John Paul was saying earlier off mic, the last 20 minutes of the film is just like, oh, okay. Like the pacing is odd. That's another thing that once you get to the end, it's like, all right, we got to wrap this shit up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel that way.
No.
What's odd is Shimizu on commentary at that point when JP starts falling asleep. He had said, because this is the part where the audience started checking out.
But
wow.
That's what you do notice. You notice that they're like, okay, we got to hurry.
You have
Yeah.
to hurry it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't want to feel that.
no.
You know? Especially when you want to know what the hell is going on. We've been watching this for over an hour at this point.
Yeah.
I just feel ultimately, I think I'm a little conflicted, and I think that nostalgia is really making it cloudy for me.
Yeah.
Because I just remembered this as being so much. I just thought that I would get so much more enjoyment out of it than I did rewatching it. And maybe as we go through, we can like kind of unpack those moments that maybe don't fully work. I don't know. But I did want to talk about production and kind of how this remake even came to be. I did learn a lot of this from the production notes on the film.
Okay.
So Takashi Shimizu said that ever since he saw E.T. as a kid, he wanted to make movies when he got older. Which T, I thought you would enjoy because you and
Spielberg.
Stevie are you're in a good place right now.
We're on speaking terms.
Yeah.
For now.
So when he got older, he decided to go to film school. And while he was attending a class taught by the filmmaker Kiyoshi Kurosawa, who he's written and directed so many films, including Pulse and Cure, he's a huge deal. But he is a professor, and Shimizu was attending his class. While in that class, he made 2 short films, Katasumi and 10-4s, 2 short films.
Interesting.
This is really where The Grudge was born. So these films blew away his classmate Hiroshi Takahashi, who did the screenplay for Ringu.
Oh, okay.
He reaches out to Taka Ichise, who produced Ringu. And because of Ringu's success, Ichise had the opportunity to make 2 new films. After watching Katasumi and 10-4s, he decided to take a chance on Shimizu. So he tells him, you can make whatever you want as long as it's really scary. So Shimizu made the 2 short films, Ju-on the Curse and Ju-on the Curse 2. Word of mouth about these films spread like crazy, and when a journalist said that they were the scariest things he'd ever seen, it caught the attention of producer Roy Lee, who had facilitated the American remake of Ringu, The Ring.
Oh, wow.
So he would go on to be an executive producer for The Grudge. And I was looking at his IMDb. This has nothing to do with this, but he served as producer for so many films since It Chapters 1 and 2.
That's right.
Dr. Sleep.
Damn.
His House.
Okay.
Barbarian. Late Night with the Devil.
Good Lord.
Yeah, my jaw just kept dropping.
Wow.
He gets his hands on the films, and despite them not even having English subtitles, the images scared him so bad that he couldn't get them out of his head. So he went to Steven Susko to come up with an English script. Susko said that he loved the story and imagery so much that it wasn't necessarily about agreeing. He just felt compelled to take this on. Meanwhile, Ichise ordered a feature-length version of Ju-on be made because he wanted to show it to Sam Raimi. So this would be Ju-on the Grudge. Because he felt like Ju-on had similar sensibilities to Evil Dead and that Sam Raimi would just get it. So Sam Raimi said it was one of the most frightening films he'd ever seen, and that the style and pacing took the genre to a whole other level. So the film itself convinced him that he wanted to back an American remake with Ghost House Pictures, but only on the condition that Shimizu would direct it.
Okay.
Shimizu didn't want to, though. He felt that an American remake should have an American director. But Sam Raimi insisted that they meet, and he pointed out specific scenes that he loved from Ju-on and said that he really wanted to see what Shimizu could do with the budget and effects that he didn't have access to before. So this changed his mind, and he said that he couldn't pass it up. I mean, of course, right?
Yeah.
It's Sam Raimi.
Yeah. So it took about 2 years before production started, and Ichise said a huge delay was adapting the screenplay. He ventured that part of it could be that Japanese and American audiences, speaking generally, of course, have very different storytelling preferences and tastes. He said that a lot of Japanese horror is very open-ended and the mystery is never quite solved, but American audiences want a definitive resolution. Susko even said that he was worried about stepping on Shimizu's toes in the adaptation, but that Shimizu was very kind and the collaboration was really easy. So once the screenplay's finished, Sam Raimi made the decision that The Grudge would be produced in Japan. He said that it could have easily been reconfigured to take place in the US, but that he felt it would lose its impact, and I completely agree.
Oh, yeah.
But Ichise said that he loved the further stipulation that it would be made with a Japanese crew. He said that Lost in Translation and The Last Samurai had filmed with an almost completely American crew, and he was really proud that The Grudge wasn't doing that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So that's what they did, and Shimizu used a translator to communicate with his American cast, and he got to do the remake of his own film. Ichise said that Shimizu was able to make a Japanese horror movie in English. And he said that he was able to make the film and the style accessible to a wider audience, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I will say I do remember that we watched the original as kids.
Yeah.
But I don't remember as far as the sensibilities or the differences between the two. So I think that hearing all of this and hearing and feeling my reactions to this version,
Yeah.
I think it really intrigues me to return to that original and see where all of this came from.
Yeah. Oh, no, definitely. And I'll be honest, and I won't stay too long on it. I watched the 2018, I think, remake of it. And I got so far, and I was just angry, and I was like, I don't want to watch this no more.
No good?
You've made the right call.
Yeah, no, that was bad. And I apologize, but that I was very angry and confused. I don't.
Now, before we curse this film, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Podmortem is a very in-depth podcast, and thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, then let's investigate. Before the film even begins, we hear a somber and tense score accompanied by haunted vocalizing over the production vanity plates.
So something I did hear on commentary, and it is a little upsetting, because we were robbed of a moment of submersion.
No!
Shimizu had talked to the people at Columbia Pictures, and he had said, what if we have this thing where her hair grows long and she starts crawling at the screen? And they were like, well, draw it up in a storyboard and we'll see what we can do. And so he drew it up and he brings it back to them and they're like, yeah, we don't do that here.
What?
And he was like, but you did it for Men in Black. He's like, yeah, we don't do that here.
Oh.
And so it just didn't.
Why'd you have me draw it?
I know. Yeah, no, you were going to say no anyway.
I know. Like, we got to think of an excuse before he comes back. But yeah.
And you have done it before?
You have.
Oh, bullshit. Yeah.
That's trash.
I don't remember what movie it was, but I remember that Columbia Pictures lady like kicking the shit out of people in one of the things. I don't remember what movie, but it's like you do that.
You've done it before. But text on screen reads, when someone dies in the grip of a powerful rage, a curse is born. The white words fade away, but the word curse turns red and lingers longer before disappearing as well. More text reads, the curse gathers in that place of death. Similarly, the word death lingers before the text continues. Those who encounter it will be consumed by its fury. Fury is the word to turn red and linger this time. The film begins with a pan from the docks up to a city. As the cars race by on the road, Peter, played by Bill Pullman, steps out onto the balcony. Behind him, Maria, played by Rosa Blasi, stretches in bed as she wakes up, engulfed in stark white sheets. In the production notes, they had a quote from Bill Pullman saying that he loved the style of Ju-on, and he likened Shimizu's approach to David Lynch.
Really?
Yeah, and said that everything that he makes is just very exciting to watch. He also said that he's always intrigued by doing things differently than he's done them before. And when he found out that it would be shot in Japan with Japanese production, even down to craft services, he signed on immediately.
That's one thing I will say is, just an aside for Bill Pullman and David Lynch, we need to cover Lost Highway.
Okay.
But I completely understand that desire to want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
He surprises me every single time simply by appearing.
Yes.
Mhm.
Because I always forget that he's in this film. There are a few people that I completely forget are in this cast.
Yeah.
And am so pleasantly surprised to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that was interesting to me that I heard on commentary, as you had said, they did film this in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the exteriors are of Japan.
Very nice.
Completely filmed on location. And this is one of the really interesting scenes where it starts with an exterior that is really Japan. You see him on this balcony that does exist. And then from that perspective and on, it's in a studio with a green screen.
Wow.
And you never notice.
No, you don't. But realizing that Peter isn't in bed next to her, Maria spots him on the balcony and wishes him good morning. When he doesn't answer her, she asks if he's okay. And when he turns to her, his face is stricken. She doesn't comment on this, only remarking that he's up early today. There's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
There's something really wrong, and it's written all over his face.
Yeah.
Peter turns back toward the railing stiffly, and without so much as a word, he leans forward, letting the momentum carry him over the railing head first. We travel with Peter through his POV as he descends to the sidewalk below. It cuts to black as we hear the splat of his impact.
I was not expecting that.
No!
It shocks me every time, even though I know.
Yeah.
But again, the way that it's setting it up, it does feel like this very intriguing cold open.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and we just got, you're talking about a curse, you know, in the text at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I think what shocks me, because even, obviously, I know it's coming. I've seen this countless times before, but I always expect more, like him saying something or some kind of back and forth before he does that.
Yeah, I think it's just a really haunting visual of him not saying anything and then it just happening.
And I think a big part of us expecting it is because it's Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
President Whitmore, man.
Yeah. you think something.
Yeah.
Yeah. A woman's screams echo from the street, and Maria gasps when she realizes what she's just seen. She rushes to the balcony, her breath shuddering as she peers over the railing. Peter is below, face down, his legs and arms bent at impossible angles. A haunting piano plays as we pan down from Maria to gathering pedestrians on the street below, their faces transformed by the shock of what they've just seen. We get a lingering look at Peter, his body broken and lifeless, before we cut to black. The credits appear blood red against a black background with the shadow of long black hair flowing through them. Water gurgles as the hair assembles itself into the Japanese title of the film. A small hand bats the water, ruining the image until it reforms in English, black against the watery red. The Grudge.
It also ruined my enjoyment of the opening credits, that hand. I think I think the opening credits, the hair, the way that it's so flowing and beautiful and brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the hand is just too playful.
It is playful. It's
Did
playful.
not care for it.
The credits continue, the long strands of hair forming and wiping away the names before completely blocking out the screen. We come back on a street where Yoko, played by Yoko Maki, rides along on her bike. She wears a blue coat against the cold and a bright red scarf. When she comes to a house, she sets her red bike to the side and lets herself in.
On commentary, they had talked about this character being created for this film.
Mm-hmm.
And the similar name, or not even similar, it's an identical name.
Yeah.
Between the actress and the character, she assumed that it was named after her, but Shimizu said on commentary that it's actually named after his sister.
Aww.
Oh.
I'd be like, thanks, brother. No,
Yeah.
that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Once inside, Yoko calls out a greeting, but no one answers her. She finds a note by the door. Out for a walk. Back later. Jennifer. She continues through the home to find Emma, played by Grace Zabriskie, sitting in a chair, staring forward, unfocused. We meet again.
Yeah.
Yoko greets her warmly, but Emma just looks over at her and doesn't respond. The room is in a state of disarray, with clothes tossed around haphazardly and trash scattered on the floor. Yoko asks if Emma remembers her and reminds her of her name, but Emma is still dazed and unresponsive. Yoko lays Emma down for a nap before sliding the doors to her room closed. Donning an apron, she makes a phone call and gets to work picking up the trash littering the house. The trash trail leads her up the stairs, and her phone call ended. She is alone in silence when she hears a thudding sound coming from one of the rooms.
Just a normal last day so far. What is this now?
Yeah. Let's just keep it normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be opening doors.
No.
I feel like let's just keep our mind on our business.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is her business.
Damn it.
No.
Fuck.
It is.
She makes her way down the hall slowly and cautiously before pushing the door open and immediately stepping in a ball of discarded newspaper. She bends down, gathering up the trash, but she stops when a loud creaking sounds in the ceiling over her head. She looks up, following the noise until there's another loud thud in the closet behind her. Brave as hell, Yoko pushes the door to the closet open and peeks inside. The closet itself is empty, but the ceiling leads up to a dark crawl space. Yoko climbs inside and slides a ceiling panel over, disturbing a trail of silky spiderweb in the process. Unable to see, Yoko flicks her sparkly pink lighter and holds it up into the darkness with a shaking hand. She sticks her head up and uses the small flame to look around. The shaky light flickers against her face as she turns toward us, pulling down more streamers of cobwebs as she turns. Her eyes open wide as she continues to slowly turn, and we see a haunted face behind her, eyes bulging and mouth open, parting a curtain of long dark hair. Yoko continues to turn, finally exposing the face with the flame of her lighter as it lunges at her. It's Kayako, played by Takako Fuji. Yoko lets out a blood-curdling scream, and our view of her is back down in the upstairs closet, where her legs dangle and kick desperately as she is pulled up into the crawl space. Abruptly, Yoko's screaming stops, and we fade to black.
So this begins our long list of iconic images,
Yeah.
iconic deaths in this film.
Yeah.
At age 13, I had never seen anything like this in my life.
No.
Yeah.
I was so scared. Just the ghostly visage of Kayako, it stays with you.
Yeah.
Well, seeing her back there and Yoko
Yes.
not knowing she's back, like it's terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so masterfully done because we've been dusting cobwebs this entire time. Those long strands of hair,
Yeah.
you might not even register that that's hair.
Yeah.
Like it's fantastic.
It really is.
It is. And I'm sorry. Again, that is Yoko's very brave. It's raccoons. I'll call somebody. Up there, that high?
No.
Oh, I'm not
That's
going up there.
none of
Yeah,
my
no.
business.
See, again, that's what I'm saying. That's not my job.
You're right.
Yeah.
No, you're
Yeah.
right. I wanted to talk about Takako Fuji because she played this same role in Ju-on the Grudge.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
She also played her in that short film Katasumi. She said she had approached the character of Kayako for a 3-minute test piece for that short film and that she couldn't believe what it ended up becoming. But despite all the evolution of the character and how it kind of blew up in an unexpected way, Shimizu's vision for Kayako and the way that she moves was always constant. He had a very clear idea. And Shimizu said that throughout the process, they developed a really beautiful working relationship with each other. And the funny thing is that when Shimizu originally looked at her resume for that first short film, he noticed that they had the exact same birthday.
Really?
Date and year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so he took it as fate. And it's a good thing that he did.
Yeah.
She is fantastic. She is so fucking scary.
If I'm not mistaken, I remember reading that she did like everything, the movement, the everything
Incredible.
that you see.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like it really is down to her performance that does make a lot of these moments really striking.
Mm-hmm.
It's a combination. It's the makeup. It's the way that the camera moves. It's the way that we were edited and cut away from it.
Yeah.
That shot of Yoko's dangling legs in the closet, I remember that staying with me as a kid and even watching it as an adult. The way that you don't know exactly what's going on up there.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if I can handle this, guys.
In the next scene, we pan up rumpled sheets to find Karen Davis, played by our croaker queen, Sarah Michelle Gellar. She is asleep in her bed. We catch movement in the small mirror on her bedside table, but it's only Doug, played by Jason Bear, scrounging for clothes in the hamper.
Real quick, Jason Bear.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought he looked familiar. I remember seeing him. He did some Buffy.
Oh, yeah.
He also did some Dawson's Creek. It looks like he did Rites of Passage in 99, Skinwalkers in 06, and Dragon Wars in 07.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's interesting that he worked with Sarah Michelle Gellar on Buffy.
Yeah.
Buffy had just ended, too.
That's right.
It
Okay.
had just ended. And Sarah Michelle Gellar had said that the fact that Sam Raimi wanted Shimizu to direct this, even though he'd never made an American film and spoke very little English, that told her everything that she needed to know to want to be a part of this. She said that when she met Shimizu, he told her, "My lady, your destiny is approaching." And she was kind of confused by what the hell that meant. And then he explained to her that the English that he knew, he was learning from Star Wars.
Oh. That's very serious.
Yeah. She was like,
I'll take it.
Okay. Yeah. And Jason Bear said that after he watched Ju-on, he immediately started packing his bags. That he watched it with a group of friends in his living room and he was so scared and he had never seen some shit like that before. That is I didn't want to keep repeating it, but that is something that almost everyone in the cast, all the Americans, said that watching that original film was all the convincing that they needed.
It just tells you how good it is and the care that was taken with it.
Exactly. But they all said that it scared the shit out of them.
Well, that's what we want.
Yeah.
Exactly. But Doug creeps out of the room on his quest for clothing, and Karen wakes just in time to see him coming back in, sniffing a shirt. When he sees her, his face breaks into a smile, and he apologizes for waking her. Karen advises him to check in the bottom drawer, and he ditches the shirt he's holding in the hamper before hurrying to the dresser. As she said, the bottom drawer has the clean sweater he's looking for, and he sniffs it in celebration, remarking that she knows him so well.
On commentary, Takako Fuji was asking why he was sniffing his clothes so much, and Shimizu said that it was a note from the American producers that it would make him not only look more aloof, but younger.
Oh,
to do this.
What?
And so it was, I guess, to show they're, these fresh young minds or these students who are coming here to Japan from America. And I guess him sniffing his shirt was really important to show that.
I can maybe understand of course he's looking through something he's worn. But if she's saying the clean clothes are down there, why are you sniffing it again?
He's like, well, let me
He's
check.
like, yes. But I'm like, how are you a grown man and you don't know where your clothes are?
Yeah,
I don't know. It didn't really endear him to me. And while we're on the subject of Doug, I'm just going to be honest. I feel like he is completely superfluous. I don't think There's a couple cute moments, I guess, but the story that's told here, especially the role that he plays later on, I'm like, either give Doug more to do or Karen could just be studying abroad.
Yeah.
I don't know that Doug was essential to this story at all.
Well, he's young and aloof.
He's young and aloof.
Jot that down.
Smell his clothes.
I think the way that the scene goes, like we're saying, it feels like we're setting up this partnership as something very important.
Yes.
We're giving it room to breathe. There's a very sweet moment coming up. There's another sweet moment coming up after that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're creating this pair that we're going to follow.
Okay.
And so where it goes from there is really just confusing.
Yeah, and I was saying up at the top, it adds to the sense of like arcs that feel like they're started and abandoned.
Yeah.
But Karen invites Doug to come back to bed, but he can't. He'll be late for his architecture midterm. Karen smirks and tells him to check his watch. He does and looks back at her, confused. She picks up the alarm clock on her bedside table and starts winding the back, admitting that she set the clock an hour ahead last night. Doug pulls off his newly acquired sweater and tosses it to the side, quipping that maybe she knows him too well before joining her back in bed.
This moment is incredibly sweet, as we said.
Yeah.
But what we get of Doug, it's like you should have set it an hour behind. You're late. Get out.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need more time together.
Yeah. I was very confused at that as well. I get it, but you wouldn't look at the clock and look at your wristwatch and be like, why the fuck is there an hour difference?
John Paul, he doesn't even know where his clothes are.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to give Doug some kind of credit here.
One thing that was very interesting on commentary, they had mentioned their attention to detail in the production design, because whenever they designed this set for this apartment, they actually went and interviewed several Americans who were living in Japan to see how their apartments were decorated. And so they specifically modeled this set after these American students that had moved to Japan.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
I like their apartment.
Yeah.
But Karen just smiles before kissing him. Morning breath be damned. They lay face to face. Doug tells her that he's glad she's decided to join him, and she says that she is too. But Doug asks if she's sure. She confirms that she is, and when Doug says that it's a big deal, Karen counters that a lot of people go abroad, and she's been wanting to come here forever. She's just glad they could do it together. As Karen crawls on top of Doug, he asks if she has a class today, but she doesn't. All she has to do today is pick up a book that she left at the care center. As they kiss, Karen assures him that he can spare 10 minutes, and she promises not to make him late to class. We glide over them to the living room of the small apartment where the city of Tokyo bustles outside the window. Later, we watch the commuters gracefully mingle as they pass each other on the sidewalk. And on the other side of the street, Karen and Doug hurry across when the cars stop.
One thing they had mentioned on commentary is a lot of shots like this, there are no hired extras, period.
Yeah.
This is Shinjuku at rush hour.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
And they just filmed.
Okay.
Sarah Michelle Gellar had talked about that. She said that in the U.S., they'll block the road off and then bring in extras. But when they were filming this, they don't disrupt anyone. They add you and start filming.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was like, no one's worried about adjusting their speed to accommodate you or blocking you. You just have to adjust and navigate.
That's kind of cool, though.
It
Yeah.
is. But Karen leads Doug to a wall overlooking a small cemetery. She shares that she wanted to show him something. An older uncredited couple arrange flowers and light incense in front of a gravestone. Karen explains that they're performing a Buddhist ritual. The incense smoke will carry their prayers to the spirits of their ancestors. Karen gazes at them with reverence, noting that it helps them find peace. But Doug puts a cigarette in his mouth and lights it. As they watch the couple bowing their heads in prayer, Karen realizes that they must have lost someone they loved. Doug looks at her lovingly.
Maybe a bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also thought it was very disrespectful of him to light that cigarette.
Yeah. I thought she was going to tell him something.
Yeah.
She's like, they must have lost someone they loved. It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, they did.
They're in a cemetery.
Yeah.
Yeah. And lovingly as I was like, are you going to kill her, man? Well, he put the cigarette in his mouth and looked at her, and I was like,
I wasn't expecting her to say
wow.
Well, there was a moment in the apartment whenever she said that she set the clock forward, he looked fucking pissed.
Yeah, he's like,
And then he's like, I guess I'll get back in bed with my stinky ass shirt or whatever.
yeah. Right now I got to sniff all the clothes over again.
Thanks a lot. But Jason Behr had said that I think it was this scene that was their first day of shooting, him and Sarah Michelle Gellar. He said that they did a take and then Shimizu said, okay. So he and Sarah Michelle Gellar are talking about like the next take and how they're going to do it. And when they turned back around, the camera crew had already moved to the next location. He said it was the most efficient crew he had ever worked with. Rosa Blasi said, too, that if you didn't like a take you did, you had to immediately go, no. Because as soon as Shimizu said, okay, the set was cleared and they're moving on to the next scene.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something very interesting about this location where they shot this, and it's just firstly just the view, just a very beautiful scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But they had trouble finding the proper location to set this. And so after just going back and forth, Shimizu's like, there's a cemetery right in front of my office building. And so they just filmed it there.
Wow.
Okay.
It worked.
Yeah.
But we cut to them jogging onto a school campus, Doug consulting his watch as he hurries Karen along. Alone, Karen walks into the care center where she greets the woman behind the desk in Japanese as she walks by. But before she can get very far, she's stopped by Alex, played by Ted Raimi.
Teddy.
It's such a treat to have him here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he asks if Karen's free this afternoon. She tells him that she only has a test to study for, but she asks why. He holds out a folder to her, announcing that her wish has been granted, her first visit alone. Karen takes the folder, her face acknowledging the gravity of his statement. She opens it, revealing a photo inside of Emma with the information filled out on the page written in Japanese. She sits with Alex at a small table, and he explains that all Karen has to do is make sure the patient has what she needs and help around the house. It's Yoko's case, but Yoko didn't show up for work this morning. Karen flips through the pages, and Alex continues that he can't get Yoko on the phone, so she must be sick, but she's the one with the house key. Karen is still perusing the file, and when she gets to a phrase that she can't translate herself, she asks Alex. He tells her, severe lethargy with mild dementia. Karen looks at him nervously, but Alex says that Emma sleeps for most of the day. He assures her that Emma's daughter-in-law doesn't work, so she'll probably be there, and it's an English-speaking home, so Karen should be fine. When a man walks up behind Karen and indicates his watch to Alex, Alex cuts the conversation short, giving her the address and advising her to use the wall chart if she needs help and to bring a map. As he starts to get ready to leave, he comes back to assure Karen that she doesn't need to worry. She's ready. Karen offers a polite smile before her eyes drop back down to the folder in front of her.
I understand that Karen is very focused on this opportunity, but I feel like there might be a little more concern about the fact that Yoko didn't show up for work today.
Yeah. I would have liked if maybe he painted it as like Yoko didn't show up again or something like to where if this is a habitual thing, it's like, oh my God, she's just flaky. But I don't know. She showed up on time. She was ready to work. She didn't give that she would normally just not show up.
Yeah, and I think that kind of gives a little more into what we were saying about not having enough with the characters.
Yeah.
We don't get that like you're saying, oh, she wasn't here again. We don't know if this is normal or if she misses a lot of work or if she's, you know what I mean? We don't get any kind of that from this conversation. She just didn't show up. And
so now you got to go.
Yeah, now you go do it.
It's your lucky day.
Yeah.
We follow Karen on her commute, walking down the city street, consulting the wall charts and apologizing demurely in Japanese when she's in the way. On the train, she eyes a young couple consoling their crying baby. And on the street, she stops a woman and her daughter, played by Junko and Nana Koizumi, to ask for directions, and the mother kindly points her on her way. Karen thanks her before smiling down at the little girl, but the little girl looks up at her fearfully before hiding behind her mother's back. Karen takes this in stride and continues down the street and up a narrow drive. Finally, she comes to a gate where the house looms unsuspectingly.
So something very funny that they said on commentary as far as whenever they were filming this scene, they had said that they were in the middle of a take and the police came up and stopped them from filming because they didn't have permission. And they asked them what they were doing and they were trying to figure out because you can't just show up and start filming somewhere in a city.
Yeah.
And so the police are off to the side talking to the American producers and trying to get everything handled. They're negotiating, trying to figure out what they can do. Meanwhile, to what you said about the efficiency of the crew, this whole time they're shooting the scene. And so when the American producers come back to tell them what they have to do and what they can do, Shimizu's like, we're done.
We're done.
Yeah.
And they were like, great job. Like, they were so happy.
But Karen lets herself into the gate, eyeing the red bike that Yoko left in front of the porch. She rings the doorbell twice, and when no one answers, she gives a polite knock before opening the door and letting herself in. She calls out, but again, no one answers her. Greeting her in the entryway, though, is scattered trash all along the floor. The lights overhead creak in an unseen breeze as Karen asks again if anyone is here.
I'd be a little worried at this.
Yes.
Yoko didn't show up. The house looked creepy outside. The door was open. I come in. It looks like nobody's been here. What's going on?
The light up there is swinging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very red bicycle outside.
Yes.
I should have put more emphasis on red than bicycle.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, no. No.
Yes, let's put the emphasis on red.
No, we're not doing that here. Now that we've entered this home again, I do kind of want to talk about the production design.
okay.
The production designer was a guy called Iwao Saito, and he had actually done the production design for Ringu.
Oh.
All right.
But his plan was to take what they had done on the original and to make the house even spookier for this American version. And so he did design and they built a full 2-story house, exterior and interior, on this set.
Damn.
And so it's not going to different sets whenever they go through this house. They're just going through this house.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But he had said that they kind of wanted to go with the design to subconsciously make you feel more afraid as we're going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of curves in the architecture, because he said that these curves, when they catch shadows, cast shadows that are scarier.
Mm.
And so there's a lot of subconscious fear going on just in the production design of this house. I bit my tongue there.
I was trying not to laugh.
We're okay. I'll check my tongue on break.
We persist. We persist.
We do. Nevertheless. But something that they did talk about on commentary was Shimizu was saying, and it made me laugh because he said that Saito is genius-like. He goes, I didn't even understand half of what he was telling me. They just kind of let him go.
Yeah.
Because he came to them, especially with like just small, intricate portions of the design, like the windows.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I've got you 5 options for windows to use in this house. And Shimizu's like, I don't know. And he's like, all right, well, then I'll just pick, and the one that they picked, it's a reason to pick that.
Yeah.
Like he's very specific in his work, and I feel like it really shows here.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, though, that I kind of noticed, and then they mentioned it on commentary, whenever Sarah Michelle Gellar, or I believe Karen is her name in the film,
Yes.
whenever she first approaches the house, I feel such a difference between the lively, actual, on-location streets of Japan and this location.
It does feel it does feel a little different. Just the look of it itself.
Yeah. And it feels very isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. And they had talked about it, and they had even spoken to the cinematographer, who actually, Hideo Yamamoto, he shot not only Ichi the Killer,
Oh.
but the original One Missed Call.
Oh.
Okay.
But he had a lot of fears about that whenever they were shooting the film. And he was like, what we shot over there and what we're shooting here, this is a set, and you can tell.
Yeah.
The director disagreed, but I feel like exteriors, yes. Interiors, not at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like the interiors are very believable as a real house.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly.
But a hand slams low against the frosted glass of a sliding door. Karen hurries over, pulling off her crossbody bag before sliding the door open. a desperate hand reaches out, grabbing onto her socked foot. Karen snaps into action, kneeling down to check on a weakened Emma who lies strewn across the floor. She has pulled herself from her soiled bedding and lies limply in Karen's arms when she lifts her up.
This is very sad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you think about it, and Yoko had just shown up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So any of the duties that she was supposed to do, she didn't even begin them.
No.
Yeah.
We cut to Karen hanging Emma's sheets on the clothesline outside. She has Emma sitting in a chair next to the open back door. She returns to her, introducing herself from the care center. She assures Emma that she's only substituting for Yoko for today, but Emma offers no sign of having heard her. Karen gently gives Emma a sponge bath before returning her to bed in fresh clothes and fresh sheets. With Emma taken care of, Karen begins to clean the house, carrying the vacuum with her as she picks up the trash littered all over the floor that Yoko had already cleaned.
That's true.
Yeah.
But when she reaches the second floor, she hears a creaking coming from one of the rooms. When she lets herself in, she passes a covered mirror, but she turns when she hears rattling coming from the other side of the room. It's coming from the closet, which has been hastily and frantically taped shut. Something is clearly moving inside, but Karen turns to leave, which, bitch, I would too.
Yeah.
The bike is outside. It all looks very weird.
Mhm.
It kind of looks like Yoko did show up.
Yeah.
And now the closet is taped closed and something. I mean, I don't know. It's weird, and I'm calling somebody.
Yeah, because you're right. It does look like Yoko showed up, but it also looks like somebody else showed up.
Yeah, it looks weird.
Yeah.
Just as Karen reaches the door to leave, a cat screams from behind the taped door. It continues to whine as Karen crosses the room, and she only hesitates for a moment before ripping all of the tape off. She slides the door open slowly, poking her head inside, and on the far wall of the closet next to her are the youthful drawings of smiling cats. But the sliver of light from the room behind her falls upon a book. Just as Karen picks it up, a black cat jumps out, meowing loudly, but we see the cat is cradled in two small hands. It growls, and when Karen sees that it's being held by a child with the bandaged and bloody knee sitting against the back of the wall with his head lowered, she starts to back away, shocked and terrified. The cat yowls at her, causing her to startle and fall backwards. She gazes fearfully into the closet where the little boy, Toshio, played by Yuya Ozeki, slowly raises his head to look at her, his chin bandaged, his cheeks pink, and his eyes wide.
Well, they weren't just there.
Mm-mm.
We grabbed that book.
Yeah.
You weren't there.
Yeah. Yuya Ozeki also played Toshio in the original Ju-on, and he was only 7 in this one.
Damn.
That's wild.
Yeah, Takako Fuji said that he came a long way between the films because on the set of Ju-on the Grudge, he would only talk to his mother. I'm like, well, yeah, he was probably like fucking 5.
Yeah.
Our view is from Emma's room as Karen paces in the kitchen talking on the phone with Alex. She talks about the boy shut and taped into the closet, the fact that no one has come home yet, and that Emma still hasn't spoken a word to her. She says that the boy won't come down and asks Alex to just get here as soon as he can before hanging up the phone. She eyes the stained diary that she took before getting the shit scared out of her back in the closet, and she glances up at the second floor as she sits down at the table and opens the book. Her face is immediately etched in concern as she flips through the pages, but she lingers on one. Amid the entry written in Japanese is a crude drawing of a man and a woman. The woman's hair shrouds her face while the man smiles, but they have identical dots marking their chest with red hearts drawn around them. On the next page is a torn photograph of a man, but Karen's hand obstructs our view. When she holds it up, we see that smiling in the remaining half of the ripped photo is Peter.
So we're starting to bring things together.
Yeah.
The plot thickens. Karen gets up from the table and makes her way to the front door. The lock clicks loudly when she turns it. I was like, you're barely... Okay. Well, maybe I don't want to be locked in this house. That's actually a fair point. She walks to the small table in the entryway and finds a crumpled up photograph. It's Toshio with his parents. His father, Takeo, played by Takashi Matsuyama, looks directly at us, but the face of his mother has been ripped out. Takashi Matsuyama is also reprising his role.
Hey.
Yeah.
To the whole family.
Yeah.
Karen looks up from the photo to find Toshio peering down at her from the second floor, gripping the railing with either hand. Karen gives him a gentle hello in Japanese and introduces herself, but Toshio continues to stare at her hauntingly. When she asks his name, he answers flatly, Toshio.
Was anybody else surprised that he answered? I thought it was going to be a much more ghostly situation.
Yeah.
Where it's just staring, no dialogue.
Yeah.
But the answer, I was like, oh, well, maybe this isn't what I think is going on.
Yeah.
I again, we've seen it, we know, but again, watching it, I still was as well.
The phone rings, startling Karen into dropping the photo. But when she looks back up at the second floor, Toshio is still there watching. Karen goes to answer the phone, but it's no longer on the receiver since Yoko had taken it with her while she was cleaning. The answering machine picks up, informing the caller that Matthew and Jennifer aren't around and inviting them to leave a message. Someone named Susan leaves a message asking Matt to pick up. When no one does, Susan continues that she's leaving work, so to call her on her cell phone or home later. She just wants to make sure Mom is okay. She asks for them to call her back before ending the call. Karen is standing over the machine listening, but behind her, behind the glass of Emma's room door, someone quickly goes by. Emma begins to whimper, and Karen immediately goes to her room. She pushes the doors open and steps into the dim room to find Emma, sitting up in bed and mumbling incoherently. Emma stares in front of her, but when Karen asks who she's talking to, Emma turns to her. In the first instance of recognition or coherence, Emma tells her clearly in a desperate whisper, I just want her to leave me alone.
Obviously worrisome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Since we did leave the room where we have eyes on that banister or the railing, I wanted to call out the misdirection that I experienced because I thought whenever she looked away for 1 second and looked back, Toshio would be gone.
Me too.
Yeah.
The fact that he was still there was very surprising.
Yeah.
And where he is and how he is also a very, very important thing that we'll learn a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The corner of the ceiling is framed between Karen and Emma, and we see long, spidery strands of hair begin to pour and float from the corner. Karen advises Emma to lay down, and she gently lowers her to her mat, but Emma's eyes stay wide and accusing toward the corner. She suddenly gasps in fear when someone otherworldly and hidden behind a curtain of long black hair lowers their face next to Karen. Karen turns in horror and the hair flips back, revealing a pitch black face. The face opens its stark white eyes before the pupils settle into place. Kayako lets loose an iconically haunting and droning croak as Karen falls back against the wall, terrified, with tears streaming down her face.
Miss Emma, let's go. We got to get out of here.
No, we're done.
We're done here. I gotta say, if you were a teen or anywhere around it, and probably an adult as well, you made this sound a lot. You heard this sound a lot. It was a fucking moment.
Yeah. I remember reading when I was like 13 or 14 that the way that they accomplished that noise was through the use of a comb, and it was the teeth of a comb dragging against something.
Huh.
Oh.
And when you think of it, you actually do hear it, and when you're 13 or 14, it does become a little less scary, and you can actually sleep at night.
So whether it's true or not, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Whoever wrote that thing about the comb, I appreciate it. I was very surprised by this.
Yeah.
In typical horror films like this with a supernatural element, you have moments of, is this house haunted?
Yes.
Is there a spirit in this home? This, we have jumped head first into it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was just shocking to see. And this is where I was kind of saying that it seems like things are moving very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's Karen's first day, her first assignment alone. She already met a little boy that I'm pretty sure is a ghost boy.
Yeah.
And then this moment with Kayako.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's shocking.
well, you're not living here with this hair monster and you're fine.
Right.
Yeah,
Something's wrong. You're helping or...
And honestly, I think that was the thing is I thought in that moment, we see the hair,
Yeah.
which enough is alone of a thing that's terrifying.
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought only Emma would be seeing it.
Me too.
Yeah.
And then Karen would help her into her bed. She would try to convey what she was seeing, and she would go to sleep for the night or something.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did not expect for Karen to turn around and be like, oh, shit, I see that too.
Yeah.
That was terrifying.
Yeah. To go back to the croak for a second, I don't know if the comb thing is true. It
me
could
neither.
be. All I do know is that her croak in the original was provided by Shimizu.
Really?
Yeah, he said that when he was a kid, he used to get in trouble by his parents for making weird sounds all the time. And he said, you never know when you might be doing something that seems odd at the time, but might one day prove useful.
Hey.
Well,
I thought that was really cool.
He had said in at least this version, otherworldly breathing is him.
Cool.
Ah,
I love
okay.
that. In the next scene, Suzuki, played by Hajime Okayama, leads a lucid Emma and her adult children Matthew and Susan, played by William Maypother and Katie Strickland, through the gate of the house. Following close behind with a polite smile is Jennifer, played by Clea Duvall.
Clea Duvall.
yeah.
We love to see her always.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like we were just, maybe it was Talk Mortem, but we were just talking about her.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about her on The Faculty,
Yes.
and we talked about her on Zodiac
That's
Yes.
right.
for the show, but she's done a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So William Maypother, I remembered him from Mission Impossible 2 in 2000. He also did In the Bedroom in 01 and Suspect Zero in 04. He was also on Mad Men.
Yes,
Yes.
he was.
And he did some voice work for a video game that I really love, New Vegas Fallout.
Shut the
Yeah.
fuck up.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that you say that he was in Mission Impossible 2
Right.
because his cousin is Thomas Cruise Maypother IV.
Shut the fuck
Get
up.
out of here.
Yes, Tom Cruise.
What the hell? What?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
You can see resemblance.
I'm like, now that I'm
Yeah,
thinking about
no.
it, yeah.
Is it the hair?
Well,
Maypother, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. I thought that it was interesting. He's another one that said that Ju-on terrified him so much he wanted to be a part of this. But he was talking about the differences between working on a Japanese set and an American set. He said that when you're rehearsing and blocking, or when they were for this film, you were literally stepping over wires because as the cast is getting ready, the crew is also getting ready with lighting and everything else. He said that in his experience as an actor in the US, you are either unemployed and ignored or you're working and coddled. He said, but in Japan, the actors are literally just another member of the crew. There is no entitlement, and they have such a stronger sense of unity because everyone is treated as equals. While we're blocking and getting ready, so are you.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
But he spoke very favorably of the experience.
It's how it should be.
Yeah.
And Katie Strickland, I remember her from the Stepford Wives in 04. She also did Something's Gotta Give in 03 and Fever Pitch in 05.
Yes. Shout out Something's Gotta Give. I fucking love that movie. Something interesting that I learned was that she is very interested in Japan and Japanese culture, and so is Jason Behr. I think I read that he speaks Japanese.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, but they met on the set of The Grudge. They're still married,
That is.
and they met here. Yeah,
I love stories like that.
but they
Yeah.
bonded over their interest in being in Japan and studying Japan, and yeah, they're literally still married and they have kids.
That's really cool.
That
Yeah.
is-
But Suzuki hurries them all inside where slippers wait for each of them. Susan slips off her shoes and slides into a pair, and when Matthew starts to just walk by, distracted by asking Emma's thoughts and receiving a smile, Susan stops him and reminds him to take his shoes off. When Jennifer asks, even in your own house? Susan tells her, yes, before offering a quiet apology to Suzuki in Japanese, to which he graciously dismisses.
The more time we spend in this house, the more I realize that I really love this house despite all the stuff.
Yeah. When you see it right now.
Yeah. We could really make a home here.
Yeah.
Yeah, given the opportunity. But they continue through the house on slippered feet, sliding the doors open to a room that will soon become Emma's. Matthew tells Jennifer that this will be perfect for his mother. She won't even have to deal with the stairs. Susan and Suzuki follow in behind them, but after a quick look, Matthew realizes that his mother isn't with them and asks where she is. Susan volunteers to go look for her. We see Emma, her earlier smile gone as she stares with trepidation up at the ceiling. Susan doesn't find her until she goes up the stairs and opens the door to one of the bedrooms. Emma continues to stand and stare, her lips pursed, not answering her daughter when she reminds her of what the doctor told her about using the stairs. She tries to pull her mother away, but Emma stands firm, not moving her eyes. Matthew comes in and asks if she's okay, but when he stands in front of her, Emma leans to the side, avoiding his obstruction of her view. Matthew follows her gaze to the ceiling, but despite some light creaking, there is nothing of note. We dip down to the first floor where Suzuki stands alone, moving through the house and closing the doors behind him before following a smell into the bathroom. Opening the door reveals the tub is full of dark water. He pulls on the chain to unplug the drain, but the chain comes back up alone, broken. Suzuki removes his suit jacket before setting it neatly to the side and rolling up the sleeve of his button-down. He plunges his hand into the water, but before he can pull out the plug, a small hand reaches up and grabs his forearm. We hear the sharp crying of a child, and the top of a kid's head is briefly seen before it plunges back into the dark water. Horrified, Suzuki throws himself backward and looks down at the long black hairs clinging to his hand. He pants as he pulls them off and stares at the tub in horror, but he's able to pull himself to his feet before Matthew appears in the doorway. With a smile, Matthew tells Suzuki that they'll take it. Still catching his breath, Suzuki plasters on a smile and nods in agreement.
Oh, that pissed me off so much.
Crazy.
Yeah, come on.
He's like, yeah, we'll cover closing costs too. It's like, dude, come on.
That's the least you can do.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah.
But again, we come in here. My mom's just looking at the corner of this house. She disappears, and then we find her. And even if I get in the way of her, she's just something looks wrong. You know what I mean? Then I find this dude. His arm's wet. He looks like he's scared.
Yes.
What's in the tub?
And what pissed me off a little bit is the fact that the way that he reacted and the way that he quickly just changed his tone. Has this happened before when you tried to sell the house?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
He's like, not again. Like, it seemed very, like, I don't know. I'm just very upset, and nobody ever, like, interviews him again. He never comes back.
No, we never see him again. And Matthew's just like, where do I sign? And it's like, read the room. After they've moved in, but before they've fully unpacked, Jennifer sits in the kitchen, quietly watching the pot as the coffee brews. Matthew comes in and kisses her on the head before looking in on his mother, asleep on the mat in the next room. He ponders that he hopes she's okay because she's been sleeping ever since they moved in, but Jennifer counters, not at night. He looks at her, confused, and she reminds him with a smile that she told him he can sleep through anything. Matthew apologizes with another kiss on the top of Jennifer's head, assuring her that his mother will get back on schedule. It's probably just because of the move. He asks if she's seen his travel mug, and when she tells him that she hasn't unpacked it yet, Matthew asks why she doesn't just ask the helper to assist her. I didn't like that.
No.
When Matthew can't remember her name, Jennifer supplies it for him, Yoko. He proposes that maybe she can suggest something. He unwraps a mug, taking a lingering look at the American newspaper it was wrapped in and musing how much he misses seeing it. But Jennifer is looking behind her into Emma's room. As Matthew pours himself a cup of coffee, he points out that he guesses they're going to have to talk in the mornings now. Jennifer is still distracted and she doesn't answer, even when he tries to get her attention. He sits down beside her, concerned. When he asks if she's okay, she looks down sullenly before meeting his gaze. She admits that she went for a walk to explore yesterday and she got so lost. She couldn't find anyone who spoke English that could help her either. Matthew promises her that it will get easier soon, but Jennifer doesn't look convinced. She asks him, or else? He tells her, or else he'll tell the company it's not working out. They'll go back to the States with or without his old job. Jennifer's face finally breaks into a smile, and Matthew gives her one in return, commenting that they can find someone else to crunch their numbers. The situation figured out, he only asks Jennifer to give it a good try, and she agrees, telling him that it's a deal. He thanks her in Japanese, and they both share a small laugh.
So I will say, I know I said a lot about the characterization not being really anything in this film. These two characters are probably the characters I care about the most.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of a scene like this, you feel their genuine care for each other, and it's not at all what you usually get in a film like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That I was very surprised.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, when he said that, I was like, oh, I did not expect that.
Well, I feel like we're used to films where it's like, look, all our money's tied up in this house. We're trapped here forever. He's like, no, we'll go back home. Like, if this doesn't work, we'll go back home.
Job or not.
Yeah. And you got to appreciate that. He moved houses for her. We cut to Jennifer in a store. She looks at the aisle, the packages of food labeled in Japanese and their prices depicted in yen. She ponders over the packaged ramen bowls, and she takes a look around before sheepishly poking a hole in the top of one of the containers and taking a sniff. Presumably pleased with the outcome, she places it in her cart and then grabs 2 more to put alongside it.
What if she wasn't pleased?
No, you're still paying.
Yeah.
You're paying for
It's
that.
like, and the bottom of the stack?
But I was watching this and I was like, man, there's not a smartphone to help you.
No.
Yeah.
You are lost. You are you're exploring and you're trying to just like give it a good try.
Yeah.
Like she agreed, we agreed, okay, let's just do it. Same thing, but what do we do in this situation? Like that is scary in itself.
It is, especially when she had said her experience before that she was lost and she couldn't find anybody to help her. Shimizu had said as well that most of the American cast had never been to Japan before and that he felt like their real disorientation really helped in the performances. And I wonder here, because this is so short, but it's such a good way to illustrate without her being like, I feel out of place. Like, you can't even read the packaging. You're poking holes and stuff to smell it because you don't even know what's in it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this was a really, for me, effective way to show that, yeah, she is trying, but she is completely out of her element.
And yeah, it's a lot of small things you don't think about.
Yeah.
Because even when she gets it home, what are the instructions? What are, like things of feeling just so kind of ill-equipped.
Yeah. And her husband is at his job. Like, I mean, I get how alone she must feel.
Yeah.
But later at the house, the wind chimes sound delicately in the breeze. We see Jennifer's half-eaten container of ramen sitting open on the coffee table next to a glass of water while she dozes on the couch. When a wet thud interrupts the serenity of her nap, she wakes to find the glass of water knocked over and the remains of her ramen strewn across the floor. In the next room, Emma's door is open and she sits up in her bed, looking at the mess just like Jennifer is. Jennifer stands up, reminding Emma gently that if she wants something, all she has to do is say so.
Emma is under her blanket halfway.
Yeah.
There is no way that she did that.
She didn't do this. Yeah. But upon closer inspection, Jennifer notices tiny wet footprints leading away from the spilled water. She follows the footsteps, passing the kitchen, where a chair is knocked onto its side. But she pauses at the stairs where a black cat stands meowing before dashing up.
Look, we'd all be very happy to see a black cat in our house.
Yes, of course.
But there's no... She doesn't sell this reaction at all to anything.
Like, where did you come from? Anything.
Right.
Because I can't remember. I think the door is open because You hear the wind chimes and stuff, and she's napping. But if a cat just wanders in, it's not, oh, it's you. What are you so happy about? Like, that is a random cat in your house.
Yeah.
You'd either be excited or scared or curious or something. She's just like, huh.
Yeah. She's like, did you hear that?
But after a moment of shaky trepidation, Jennifer follows the cat. It is stopped on the landing and is busy chewing at something. But Jennifer is startled when two hands reach out and grasp the cat, pulling it out of view. Jennifer asks who's there, and when no one responds, she completes her ascent to the second floor.
Those were ghost hands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, they were blue.
Yeah. What do you mean, who's there?
What's
up
there?
Yeah.
For the second time, I mean, not linearly, but in this movie, grab Emma and get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But she walks directly into the first room, and our view lingers in the empty hallway. The score rises, impossibly tense, before the door slams shut behind Jennifer and it cuts to black.
I just want to talk about the score in this film really quick.
Yeah.
It is incredible from the
Yes.
opening all the way through.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It was composed by Christopher Young. We just
Shut
Yeah.
yeah, countless films to even begin to list, but we just talked about him regarding Hellraiser.
Yeah.
But on commentary, Shimizu had said that he was well aware of his filmography and all the work that he'd done in the past. The only direction he gave him, he said, I know you've done great work, but let's start from zero here.
Oh.
Which is really interesting. He said, how rude of me to say that to him, but I don't see it that way.
Yeah. No.
It's to say, don't reference anything you've ever done.
Yeah.
Take this on as if you've never done a film like this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel it's very fresh and very interesting.
It's so good.
Yeah. That's what I take from it, to start from scratch.
Yeah. But that night, when Matthew comes home from work, he calls out to his wife. The house is filthy, trash thrown on the floor of every room, and her abandoned ramen still overturned on the floor. Matthew sees this once he turns on the light and is confused, but he goes immediately to his mother, who is still sitting up in bed. After confirming that she's all right, he asks where Jennifer is, and with wide, uneasy eyes, Emma points toward the stairs. When Matthew enters the room upstairs, it is dark, and trying the light switch does absolutely nothing. But in the stillness of the room, we hear a desperate, rhythmic wheeze. When Matthew switches on the bedside lamp, he reveals Jennifer, breathing in thin, wheezy rasps, lying on the bed and staring up at the ceiling with unblinking eyes. He starts to laugh, commenting that she scared him, but he quickly abandons this when he sees her stricken face. Matthew tries to comfort his wife, asking what's wrong and glancing around the room when she doesn't answer him. Her sentiments come out choked and unformed, but Matthew continues to ask her what's wrong and what happened. He concedes that he needs to call an ambulance, but just as he reaches for the phone, he sees Toshio crouched on the side of the bed. Toshio hisses at him before standing, clothed in his underwear, his skin a pale blue and his eyes rimmed in black. Matthew demands to know what he's doing here, but Toshio only opens his mouth wide, unleashing a screeching sound accompanied by the yowling of a cat. Matthew falls backwards, knocking over the lamp as he goes, the new angle casting Toshio's shadow impossibly high on the wall. It looms over Jennifer, whose terrified eyes rise to meet it as she's cast in its darkness. She continues to whimper and pant as Matthew raises the lamp. He's met with the sounds of bare pattering feet slapping against the floor, and when the cat cries out again, Jennifer rises up, groaning. But she falls backwards, the whimpering, the wheezing, the panting, all gone as she stares at the ceiling sightlessly. Terrified, Matthew backs up to the closet, scanning the room with his sweaty face. But finally, he looks up to see Toshio standing over him, and when the boy opens his mouth wide again, the screeching and the cat's yowling overtake the score, and it cuts to black.
Toshio is a menace.
This visual and the sound of that yowling.
Yes.
There again, these iconic moments.
Yeah.
Again and again that stay with you through 20 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I can't shake this feeling again of just this kind of a vibe of a bunch of short films.
Yeah, I feel like even when you said that when we were doing the intro, I was having trouble articulating my thoughts because my brain kept going back to these moments where it really does. And this is not the last time that it feels that way.
It feels like that last like stinger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this again, and this is just Toshio.
Uh-huh.
It's just him.
Yeah.
There is no
Kayako.
Yeah, Kayako's not here. It's just him.
That's true.
It is.
Like, there's no sign. We don't hear the noise. We don't hear anything. All we get is him and the growling.
And again, I just feel, and I don't know, there's just something about the pace of which we're moving through all of this.
Yeah.
That this sequence, I don't know, maybe it's just kind of what we're used to in different horror films where there is like a moment of kind of trying to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he comes home, he finds his mother, and he finds his wife this way, and it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the first thing that happens is the last thing that happens.
Yeah.
That's true. Back in the house now, it is silent and still, and the litter is collected neatly into a bag on the floor when Alex comes knocking. When no one answers him, he slides the back door connected to Emma's room open, politely trying to get her attention as he walks in. In a hushed whisper, he calls out for Karen as well, but he kneels next to Emma to check on her. It doesn't take him long to see that Emma has died. In his shock, he falls back, discovering Karen in the corner, shaking and panting as she stares up at the ceiling. When Alex shakes her and yells her name, she gives no response. So, this is just an aside very quickly. I didn't put this together, but it was a light bulb moment. Our friend Amber messaged me yesterday at the point of this recording, but she said that she's replaying The Quarry and it clicked in her mind, Ted Raimi and Grace Zabriskie are both in The Quarry.
Oh.
And they're both in this. And so seeing them together in the scene, I'm like, oh yeah. But outside, Detective Nakagawa, played by Ryo Ishibashi, gets out of his car and pushes past reporters as he walks up the narrow path to the house. The waiting officers raise the police tape for him to gain entry onto the property.
Hey, it's Aoyama.
Yes, from Audition.
Yeah.
I was so excited to see him here.
Mm-hmm.
I did not remember him being in this.
No.
Inside, as paramedics carry away Emma's lifeless body, Nakagawa introduces himself to Alex. He also introduces his assistant, Detective Igarashi, played by Hiroshi Matsunaga. But Alex is concerned about Karen. When he asks how she is, the detectives exchange a look before Nakagawa reports that Karen is very shaken up and they want her to stay in the hospital tonight. Nakagawa presents him with a framed photo, asking if Alex knows the people in the picture. It's a wedding photo, and Alex identifies them as Matthew and Jennifer Williams. Well, he's like, that's Matthew Williams, and those are your middle names.
Oh,
Matthew
shit.
Williams. You didn't catch that?
I didn't even catch that. That's even more frightening.
Your eyes just got huge.
Yeah, that's half my name.
But he shares that Matthew is Emma's son, and Emma is who Karen came here to take care of. But Nakagawa wants to know the last time Alex saw Matthew or Jennifer. Alex hasn't seen them since they registered with them, but that's standard procedure. He continues that the visits were arranged by Matthew's company, and when he starts to tell Nakagawa where Matthew works, the detective stops him because he already knows. They've spoken with Matthew's company, and he didn't show up to work today. After a beat of silence, Nakagawa takes his card out of his wallet and hands it over to Alex, asking him to come by tomorrow to make a statement. Alex takes it, despondent. He whispers Yoko's name, and when Nakagawa asks what he said, he elaborates. Karen was a substitute. Yoko usually takes care of Emma, and she didn't show up for work either. Nakagawa asks how long, and a little shaken, Alex tells him it's been since yesterday, and he thinks he saw Yoko's bike outside. Nakagawa heads outside and eyes Yoko's red bike before surveying the outside of the house.
Things just keep getting worse now.
Oh,
Yeah.
My question as well is, whenever Karen arrived, did she notice the bike? Because it was in the shot that we saw.
She
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Wouldn't that be a little weird?
Yeah.
To say, no, she did show up.
And then you see the state of Emma when you... Yeah, you're right. If that's recognizable as Yoko's bike, and Karen's been here for a while.
I think you said, what, 3 months?
If she's ready to come and do this on her own.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, I didn't even put that together. But when Nakagawa comes back inside, Igarashi is listening to the message that Susan left for Matthew, admitting how worried she is about their mother. The machine announces that the message came in on Thursday evening at 8:37. Igarashi deduces that Susan is Matthew's sister. He holds up a photo of the siblings together and says that it seems that she works here in Tokyo. Nakagawa instructs his assistant to call Susan at work, then try her at home, and to send someone to her place if no one answers. Nakagawa looks down at the phone base and realizes that the cordless phone is missing. He presses a button and the phone begins to beep from further in the house. Nakagawa heads upstairs, suspicious, and he travels down the hallway slowly, following the steady beeping with Igarashi close behind him. They finally make it to the room where Yoko met her demise, and when they open the door, the phone's beeping is louder than ever. Nakagawa tracks it to the closet, and when he opens it, he finds the phone sitting inside, but there is nothing else there. He ceases the beeping, and upon inspecting with his flashlight, he finds strands of long black hair on the floor of the closet. He raises the light and scans across the ceiling.
I just want to call out the sound design at this moment.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Whenever he picks up the hair, you hear the wind howl in such a eerie, horrific way.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
And the lighting in this film is fantastic throughout.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. But suddenly, we watch from the crawl space as the detective pushes the ceiling open. Out of the detective's view, but in ours, we see Yoko's pink glittery lighter dropped and cast aside. Nakagawa pulls himself up, and Igarashi does the same, coughing as they pass through the hanging cobwebs.
Something interesting they mentioned on commentary about this attic set, they had said that they had built it to Ishibashi's measurements.
Oh!
Okay.
So they wanted to make it to where he had enough room to get around, but also to where he appeared stifled.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
And they said, apparently, I guess, Shimizu had said that I guess he got his start in filmmaking with the props department.
Okay.
And so he said that these cobwebs that are around the entire attic are from a spray that you just spray and it kind of simulates what appears to be cobwebs. He said he knew about it from when he used to do that work, and he told the production about it, and so they ordered a bunch and used the hell out of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They stop when Nakagawa's light falls upon someone sitting in the corner, only their legs visible. When the detectives come closer, they see that it's Jennifer's legs. She's laying in her husband's lap. Both she and Matthew are propped up and lifeless. A high-pitched tone brings Nakagawa gently to his knees as he takes in what he's seen, but Igarashi gets his attention, asking who that belongs to. Nakagawa focuses the beam on what Igarashi has pointed out, and we see it up close and personal, a bloody and disembodied lower jaw. We linger on this horrific sight before we cut to Karen waking up in a bed at the hospital, the bright sunlight shining in through the window.
Once again, very, very shocking.
Yeah.
I did not expect that this would be the end of the Williams family.
No.
Yeah.
And why are they propped up like that?
That's the other question.
I don't know.
They had said those are dolls as well on
What?
commentary. Those are not really the actors.
Damn.
I never would have
never-
guessed that.
Yeah.
No, it looked like they had just had some makeup applied.
Yes.
But I really like the way that this scene unfolds.
Yes.
I don't, again, there's a lot of questions. Like you're saying, why are they propped up like this?
Yeah.
The last time we saw them, they were in that bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would have had to have been moved.
Mm-hmm.
And
Why?
it was Toshio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Also, yeah.
don't know.
And one thing I will say, as far as this being a PG-13 movie, I was really surprised to see that jaw.
Yeah.
And there's another sequence that comes up. And again, we don't linger a lot.
Right.
But it's enough to where you're kind of surprised that they got away with a PG-13.
For sure.
Yeah.
When that high-pitched sound was ringing and he dropped to his knees, did anybody else think of Final Fantasy VIII?
Yes. They're about to be Laguna.
Yeah. But Karen sits up quietly, and when she sees Doug waiting in a nearby chair, her eyes fill with tears. He comes over to the bed and tries to soothe her, holding her hand and stroking her hair. He apologizes, saying that Alex told him what happened, but Karen says that she's not even sure what happened. Doug tells her gently that the old woman passed away in her sleep, but Karen furrows her brow. She asks Doug if that's how they're saying she died.
His choice of words here made me hate him even more.
Yeah.
He said he didn't know exactly how he said it, but the way he said it, he goes,
I think he said an old lady, or
he's
the
like,
old lady.
An old lady died. It's sad, but that's all there is. What?
Yeah, that's a lot, Robin. You know what I'm thinking, and I'm just now putting this together. I don't know if we were supposed to feel this watching this, but the relationship between the two of them, I feel like he's there comforting her when she wakes up and everything, and then they had that cute moment with the alarm clocks and all that. And then we see that journal with a couple with their hearts drawn. And then Matthew and Jennifer are propped up together eternally in the attic. I don't know if like this was framed as some kind of like dark love story. And I mean, that's not necessarily what happens at the end. But do you think maybe we were supposed to catch that vibe? Because watching like the juxtaposition of that diary and then this couple posed together, because I'm still kind of stuck on that.
Yeah.
And then immediately cutting to this couple, like him comforting her. Am I way off base here? Does any of that make sense?
Well, I'm trying to connect it with what they had said whenever they were surveying the cemetery.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I cared more about this couple,
That's fair.
I cared more about
Matthew and Jennifer.
Yeah. No, that is interesting, because you saying that there is a lot of different behaviors we see when there is couples on the screen, or what they're talking about, or how they're interacting with each other.
And even the tragic end of Peter and Maria.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. But Karen lowers her eyes and shakes her head, only able to express that there's something with that house before breaking down and hugging Doug. It fades to black. In the next scene, we're in Susan's office, where she sits alone amid the many desks and computers. She leaves the message from Matthew that we've already heard, reporting that she's leaving from work and for him to call her because she's worried about their mom.
The answering machine, starting with Matthew and Jennifer aren't around, it felt pretty dark.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's good. She leaves the office and starts down the long hallway, strolling along confidently before she hears a strange creaking behind her. She stops to listen better, but when the source of the sound isn't evident, and it's very clear how alone she is in this large building, Susan breaks into a jog and lets herself into a stairwell. Once she closes the door behind her, her cell phone starts to ring, and the caller ID informs her that it's Matthew calling back. But when she answers, there's nothing but that rasping groan in her ear. Susan is frustrated when the iconic sound continues, telling her brother to stop it, but it only grows louder until she hangs up the phone. Unnerved, she starts down the stairs, but when she continues to hear strange noises, she looks down the stair hole as the tense score mounts. She calls down, asking if anyone is there, but the only response she receives is the loud banging of a door in one of the floors above and the flickering from the light on the ceiling. It goes out abruptly, shrouding the top floor in darkness. Then another light bursts, darkening the next floor. As Susan looks up at this, there's a screeching on the stairs below. She looks back down the stair hole to see someone crawling along, shuffling up the stairs, groaning and screeching. When a shaky hand comes into view to grab the next step, Susan is horrified. The floors above her are continuing to go dark one by one, and she gasps in terror as she rushes to the door back onto her floor, just as the light goes out around her.
This is, and it's not a matter of nostalgia or anything like that, without hyperbole, one of the greatest uses of a stair hole I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The way the lights are shutting off floor by floor.
Yeah.
The way you barely see Kayako.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just the movement, the style of her motion.
Yeah.
These jittery, like almost you're missing frames.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And her reaching out to that next step. It's
Yeah.
like, fuck. I mean, I don't know. At that moment, it's just like your eyes aren't deceiving you. Like that is, you're seeing what you're seeing.
Mhm.
Yeah. And where are you going? Like you said, the lights above are turning off.
Yeah.
You can't go up. Whatever's crawling at me.
You certainly can't go down.
I can't go that way.
One thing I did hear on commentary that was kind of interesting is they said that the building they filmed this in, they were actually filming on floor 13.
Of course.
Okay.
But the thing is that it was completely coincidental. They didn't mean to do that. They just happened to film here. But whenever they showed this footage to test audiences, any reference to it being floor 13, they laughed because they were like, oh, of course it is.
Yeah.
And so they got rid of any reference to floor 13 either through CG removal of signs or through ADR.
Damn.
Okay.
But Susan runs out of the stairwell. Something keeps her from slamming the door behind her, though. When she turns, she sees that it's her phone. The lucky rabbit's foot she has attached to it hasn't left the darkness of the stairwell. Susan pulls so hard that she falls backwards and the charm breaks off. But when she peers back into the darkness, we see Kayako staring back from the ground, her eyes wide. Her rasping continues as Kayako pulls the rabbit's foot into the dark with her.
Just the symbolism of this.
Yeah.
You're out of luck.
Yeah.
And honestly, it really would have been poetic if we knew that this was the 13th floor.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
iconically unlucky, and this bitch just took her luck. But terrified, Susan rises to her feet and runs down the hall, chancing fearful glances behind her as the door silently closes. In the security office, she rushes to the guard, played by Yoshiyuki Morishita. She stammers out that there was something on the stairs, but in her panic, she realizes that she should be speaking Japanese instead of English.
They said on commentary that this actor played the exact same role in the original.
Hey.
Oh, that's so cool. Trembling, she switches languages and struggles to tell him that she saw something strange on the 10th floor. The guard is concerned as he asks her to sit down. She does, but she asks him sincerely to just please help.
I do want to admit right now, I was like, why is Kayako after Susan? What, like, I'm like, because I know it's the house. We've already been told, that's where she lives.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, we're somewhere else. Susan's at work, and we're like, what?
Later, I don't know. There's kind of reference to this thing where it's like, even if you've just been in the house.
Right.
But then that also kind of isn't true.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And I think it does get a little difficult.
Right.
Because when you think of it that way, what happened to
Suzuki, yeah.
What happened to all of the other police? And they even said that on commentary.
They did?
I forgot about that. They said that on commentary whenever they have them investigating after they interview Alex. I think it was the producer. He said, so, quick question. Are all these detectives dead later?
I mean, it's a good question, though.
Yeah, because there were a lot of people.
Yeah.
We cut to the guard in the hallway with his hat on, swinging a flashlight from side to side. Susan watches him from a monitor in the security office, but once he steps into the stairwell, her view of him is gone and she leans forward pensively. But she's relieved when the guard comes back out after a moment and continues down the hall the way he came. But before Susan's eyes, the footage begins to warp as the lights in the hallway flicker. A figure slowly rises from a pool of shadow, morphing into the visage of a shadowed woman as she slowly walks down the hall toward the camera. Susan gasps. This is the line for her. We see a panicked Susan running out the front doors of her office and desperately hailing a taxi. In the back seat, she tries to catch her breath, but she can't help but scan the windows nervously before catching her own eyes in the rearview mirror.
Firstly, Shimizu said that her entering the cab and them driving through the city is an homage to Suspiria.
Okay.
Oh!
Which I loved very much. But we're really just leaving the security guard for dead?
Well, it didn't want him.
Yeah.
Okay, that's true. He's like, I didn't go to that house.
Yeah. She stomps quickly through the front doors of her apartment building, and it's not until she's in the elevator that she lets out a relieved sigh. Susan leans against the wall as the elevator car ascends to her floor. But since her eyes are closed, she doesn't see that right next to her, through the window and the door, Toshio appears repeatedly on every floor, getting closer and closer until his small face is right outside of the glass. But when the car finally comes to a stop on Susan's floor, he's nowhere to be seen. When Susan steps out, she continues to scan her surroundings nervously on her way to her door. She takes one last panicked look behind her as she safely locks herself inside her apartment.
I really enjoyed this visual.
Mm-hmm.
No accompaniment of music.
Yeah.
No sting. It's just a sight.
Yeah.
And it's genuinely frightening.
Yeah.
Susan's sequence is my favorite part of the film.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it is just genuinely scary. The way that it's shot, the pacing of it, it's just so good.
Oh, yeah.
Susan sits on her couch, finally comforted by being in her own home. But just as a smile starts to cross her lips, she sees the ripped piece on her phone from where the rabbit's foot charm once was.
I'm sorry. There's no way.
That you're smiling?
No, there's no way I'm smiling probably ever again. Firstly. Secondly, it doesn't take the fucking missing rabbit's foot to be like, oh yeah, the most harrowing experience of my entire life. I forgot.
I think it's that.
Yeah.
20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Fear etches into her face once again, but her attention is drawn to the other side of the room when her house phone begins to ring. When she answers and hears her brother's voice on the other end, she lets out a long sigh and allows herself a small laugh, which I'm sure you also don't approve of.
No, not a fan.
She asks if he's okay, and he assures her that he's fine. He's downstairs. He asks what her apartment number is again, and she tells him, hitting the button to buzz him in before hanging up the phone. But the very second she hangs up, her doorbell rings.
Terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
It's so scary.
So effective.
Because,
Yeah.
again, the elevator served a dual purpose. We got that really excellent scare with Toshio, and we know she does not live right next to the fucking entrance of the building.
No,
No,
that's
yeah.
true. Yeah.
We know how long it takes to get to her apartment.
Mm-hmm. Like 8 Toshios.
Right? Exactly. Confused and unnerved, Susan creeps slowly to the door. But when she looks out the peephole, Matthew leans in to peer back out at her. Letting relief take over once again, she sighs and opens the door. She immediately starts to chastise her brother, but when she steps out into the hall, she's alone. Matthew was never there to begin with. Her apartment door closes behind her, startling her, and as she looks around for a trace of Matthew, that rasping croak sounds loudly from the phone she still holds in her hand. She backs up against the door, terrified, and in her fear, she drops the phone. It clatters to the ground, spilling out its batteries, but the rasping continues. Susan hurries back inside her apartment and runs to her bed where she cowers beneath her blankets like a child. She trembles, glancing up at the door before looking back down at the bed with horror. From beneath the covers, her shaking hand brings out the pilfered rabbit's foot that she left with Kayako in that dark stairwell.
Ooh.
Susan's eyes widen and she clamps the shaking hand over her mouth as she whimpers. The tense music mounts as something moves at the foot of Susan's bed beneath the sheets. She is pulled onto her back and she raises the blanket to look down, her face contorted with agonizing fear. Kayako peers up at her before yanking her down. Susan's scream is short-lived, and when we see the bed once again, the blankets are falling flat as if nothing was ever there at all. We see Susan's still apartment. The dropped phone outside of her door as Kayako's rasping finally fades away.
Will do for bed sheets what Psycho did for showers.
Shit.
I remember this so vividly from my childhood.
It is genuinely fucking scary.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I did not remember this being...
Really?
Yeah, I did not. And watching it, I was like, God damn, that was terrifying.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, we were talking about kind of why.
Yeah.
I feel like Susan wasn't, like, she didn't just get got.
Mhm.
She was fucking terrorized.
Yeah, for the whole, like, trip home.
She
like,
doesn't
at
even
work.
live in that house.
I think, and that's another thing that I think is what really made me think of this idea of these short films.
Okay.
This feels like something so completely separate from the rest of the film that kind of operates under its own rules even.
Yeah, because I don't really see Kayako using a voice changer like Ghostface. You know what I mean?
No.
Exactly.
And us unpacking it right now, thinking about it, she had to ask to be let in.
Also true. Like a vampire.
Yeah.
And she fucking picked an outfit for her brother.
Yeah.
Like he never wore that
it
in the
looks
hall.
like he'd wear this.
Yeah. And you have a scarf.
Yeah.
It's like,
She
really?
has access to their closets. She knows
sorry.
what they
It's like he'd look great in this.
He's a winter.
But as you said, this is the sequence in the film.
Yeah.
I even wrote down in my notes, I said, this is one of the most effective short horror films I've ever seen.
And it is.
Yeah.
And Katie Strickland does really fit. Like, her fear is, like, palpable.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
In the hospital, Nakagawa sits with Karen. He gently asks how she's doing, and she admits that she's tired. She confirms that she's an exchange student, and she's been working for the care center for 3 months because she needed a social welfare credit. So there's the 3 months.
Yeah.
After Nakagawa checks that this is the first time Karen was in that house, he brings up the Japanese boy she claims to have seen. Karen is immediately concerned about the boy's well-being, but Nakagawa tells her that they haven't found him yet. He asks about her claims that she found the boy in the closet, and she says that she did, elaborating that she also found a journal. Nakagawa jots down notes, asking if the journal belonged to the little boy, but Karen doesn't think it did. Based on the handwriting, she thinks it belonged to a woman. Nakagawa asks the extent of her interaction with the boy, and Karen shares that she only spoke with him briefly, but he told her his name was Toshio. Nakagawa only has one more question. He presents her with the photo of the family she found, protectively guarded in an evidence bag. Toshio with his father, his mother's face ripped out. Karen tells him that that's the boy she saw, and the detective takes a long look at the picture. Karen breaks the silence by admitting that the entire time she was in that house, she felt like something was wrong. She asks him what happened there. After a pause, Nakagawa tells her that the bodies of Emma's son and daughter-in-law were found in the attic. It would appear that Matthew killed Jennifer before killing himself. I don't know. Yeah, what detective work got us there?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because we saw Jennifer die. It's not like they broke her neck or they stabbed her or like she just died. Like she died of fright.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you getting that from?
Well, Matthew scared the shit out of her.
Oh, then he scared the shit out of himself. Okay, got it. It just doesn't track.
No. Like, we're waiting for a lot of evidence to come back, but we have a theory.
But we got a
the
working
office.
theory, yeah.
Yeah. Like you're lying, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Karen stares at him in disbelief, but Igarashi comes in, interrupting before the conversation can go further. Nakagawa excuses himself and follows his assistant into the hallway. Out of Karen's earshot, Igarashi reports that they checked Susan's apartment, but there was no one there. Nakagawa mulls this over, but Igarashi tells him the strange part. The chain was put on the door from the inside. It seemed like Susan did come home, but there was no one in the apartment. Nakagawa tasks him with getting the surveillance footage from where Susan works. He turns to go back into Karen's room, but Igarashi's voice stops him. He comments that this was the first family to move into that house since the discovery in the attic 3 years ago. The camera presses in on Nakagawa as his assistant asks if he knows anything about this. Nakagawa glances at Karen, who is watching intently from her hospital bed, before walking back over to Igarashi.
So if the discovery was in the attic, maybe it's posing based on like a...
Maybe.
Is it called a residual haunting?
Yeah.
Where it's like
Okay.
repetitive?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a little more sense. I mean, that
Yeah.
makes some kind of sense.
It at least gives us an answer.
Yes.
Yeah. But at his restaurant job, Doug brings in the sandwich board outside before sitting next to a window to study. Someone knocks on it and he glances up to see Karen looking back at him. He opens the door to let her in, joking that he didn't think they were letting her go until tonight. Did she escape? She kind of grins that she just had to get out of there. She didn't want to be alone. And her answer causes the smile to drop from Doug's face. He places a reassuring hand on her shoulder before going to the restaurant manager, played by Yoichi Okamura. Doug asks to take the rest of the day off, and the manager seems to grant this. Afterwards, on the bus, Doug watches a couple flirting and giggling a few seats up before looking over at his own girlfriend, who stares vacantly out the window. He asks her what's wrong, and when she just lowers her head, he gently implores her to talk to him. Karen admits that she thinks she saw something in the house. She and Emma were alone in the room, but she still feels like something was in there with them. So did she not see Kayako?
That changes everything because she clearly reacted to having seen her.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it until I am revisiting this line. And that, I mean, she saw her, right?
Well, that's what I thought. And even when Alex found her, she was still sitting in the corner looking at the same spot.
That's not feeling
No.
a presence.
Yeah.
That's right there.
Yeah.
Scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Like, you don't see that shit?
Yeah, I do. That's why I'm crowded in the corner.
Yeah. Suddenly, in the reflection of her window, Kayako's face appears, accompanied with her raspy croak. Karen gasps and looks around, afraid. But Doug didn't see anything, and when Karen looks back toward the window, it's her own face reflected back at her. Doug tries to get her to explain what's wrong, but she will only tell him that she just wants to go home. She lowers her head to his chest and quietly begins to cry.
Did you get a little bit of perfect blue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We pan across Karen and Doug's apartment as the shower runs. We join Karen in the shower where she rinses off her hospital stay. Her eyes closed, she rinses the shampoo out, massaging the back of her head. But through her hair, gray fingers appear, curled into a claw. When Karen's fingers touch these, she gasps, startled. She spins and looks around, touching the back of her head as she lets out a pained sigh.
Will do for showers what Psycho did
For showers.
Scared the hell out of me.
No, literally.
Yeah, see, this I remember. And seeing this, I was like, okay, now I'm afraid to take a bath again. It was like, come on, man.
Great.
Yeah.
It's so genuinely scary, but I feel like Karen takes it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, honestly, from where we see her go from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She takes a little while to...
But at the care center, it's past closing. The lights are off and Alex walks down the stairs alone. When he passes the landing, Toshio sits, curled up in the corner. Alex seems to sense something amiss, but when he turns to look, there's nothing there. The score grows tense as Alex stops in his tracks. Someone walks toward him from the front of the office. Their head is down, their hair obstructing their face as they trudge along. Their steps are unsteady, but they don't falter until Alex recognizes that it's Yoko. He gently says her name as Yoko starts to descend the stairs, and her progress slows. She walks down them slowly, and when Alex tries to follow her, his shoes squeak loudly as he nearly slips. Alex inspects the floor and finds the reason. Placing his fingers in the pool that Yoko is leaving behind, Alex realizes that he has slipped in Yoko's blood. He asks her, "What happened, Yoko?" This finally makes her stop. We see the top of Yoko's face as she slowly raises her head and turns toward Alex. Still wearing her apron, Yoko's clothing is torn and streaked with blood. The curtain of her hair still hides her face, and her neck cracks as she finally raises up to look at Alex. Alex drops his briefcase. His face contorts in horror, and he lets loose a terrified scream. We finally see Yoko gazing up at him, and the mystery of the lower jawbone is solved. The bottom half of Yoko's face has been torn away, and her tongue lolls free as she looks up at Alex with emotionless eyes. Alex's screams echo as we cut to black.
So very quickly, just how this was accomplished, they said it was actually a composite shot. And they start with a doll that has a jaw. They continue with a doll that doesn't have a jaw, and then they bring in the actress and put it all together.
Wow!
And it looks amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fucking good.
Again, though, doesn't this feel not of anything going on in the house?
I don't know how Yoko is back here.
I don't know either. And what did... Oh, Alex did go to the house.
He did go to the house, but I feel like...
Why Yoko?
Why Yoko? And I mean, it is all... I feel like if you're just watching it, you're like, oh, fuck. But if you really stop to think, nobody else was like turned into something or went on to attack someone else.
And I think that what we have, especially with what is set up with this legend and folklore,
right?
Like even before the opening credits, Yoko doesn't fit that bill.
No.
To be able to do that. Why wasn't it almost like something to tide you over and it was Matthew and Jennifer going to get Susan then? You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, and not that Susan did anything to them. I just think of a couple.
No.
At your
Yeah.
door.
Oh, yeah.
No.
It makes me think of that.
Yeah,
But-
because even Matthew, it was a visage. That wasn't his like spirit or his dead self or whatever.
Yeah.
No, it was Kayako for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly think that it might have been more effective if it was Matthew and Jennifer, or Matthew, Jennifer, and Emma, all of them.
Yeah.
Her
yeah.
entire
oh my God.
family.
Okay.
And maybe
then
this
we get
cycle.
Yoko.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody who dies in this house, and then you have that kind of a thing.
Damn.
Right.
But I don't know.
Yeah, because it is really confusing. I love it. I think that it is so scary, and she looks terrifying.
Yes.
And it does continue with this, oh, I was in that house. I just don't think that it fully follows the rules that we've set. Like, nothing else like this happens.
Yeah.
I think you saying that, I didn't even realize that. But you're right. Nobody else gets somebody else sent after them.
No.
Yeah.
And again, it just feels like, is this awesome? Hell yeah, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Was the office sequence and everything that happened in Susan's apartment awesome?
Yeah.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah. But they're kind of awesome as their own little things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you start to put it together, you're like, this piece, I don't think this piece fits, guys. Are these two different puzzles we've got?
Yeah. Like,
Somebody look at the box.
Yeah.
But in Karen's apartment, we are treated to a research scene.
We love to see it.
yeah.
Having heard the detective's conversation, Karen uses a computer to search news archives from 2001, 3 years ago, for the keyword Toshio. She immediately gets hits on articles detailing a father murdering his wife and son before taking his own life on February 23rd, 2001. Karen clicks on one of these articles, complete with photos of the house where she went to take care of Emma and photos of the Saeki family. Takeo, the loving husband and father, Kayako, the housewife, and Toshio, the only child. She scrolls down and sees the next headline. American professor throws himself off a building. Smirking at us from the black and white photo on the screen is Peter.
That was something too that I kind of was waiting for, because the opening happens and then you're just like, what the fuck? And then now, of course, like you said, we're connecting things.
Mm-hmm.
So I remembered it, but I hadn't, not watching it in so long. I was kind of like, where does this come from again? So getting here, I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
And then you remember the journal?
Yeah.
Yeah. But in his office, Nakagawa puts in the surveillance tape from Susan's office. He watches as the security guard walks back out onto the hall after having checked the stairwell. The screen begins to warp and the lights flicker, just as it did for Susan. He watches as that shadow morphs into a woman. The screen glitches as she walks slowly, shuffling her feet as she goes, coming closer and closer to the camera. She passes underneath it and out of sight. Nakagawa gulps and looks around him, but when he turns back toward the screen, a woman's voice mumbles something in Japanese before the shadow raises again and takes over his view. Two eyes open wide and stare at him through the darkness before the footage ends. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I have to say, as somebody who consumes a lot of horror, I don't think that I'm alone in thinking that the surveillance was not going to show this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that that was like a for Susan show.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Nakagawa saw it, which I am aware, yes, he was in the house as well, but even so, and his reaction was so muted, it was really funny to me because that is the scariest shit. That is the scariest shit you've ever seen in real life.
Yeah.
Period.
He looked over his own shoulder almost, but it was almost like, oh, did someone come in? Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
It wasn't like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
You know, like feeling this fear of the moment, which you should absolutely be feeling.
No, I'm throwing up. I'm pissing my shit. It's done. I'm not going to be the same after seeing that.
No.
I think when the shadow morphed into the shape of a person,
Yes.
I probably would have paused it and been like, I need to find somebody or I need to go pee.
Well,
or like, that's terrifying.
I'm not going pee alone. Not
Oh, well.
You have your detective partner.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like, this is what we've been investigating, by the way. Let's both look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me rewind this. Come back real quick.
I can't be
Yeah.
alone with it. And I agree with what you're saying because it did seem very like it was just for Susan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that the security guard goes into that room and Kayako doesn't fuck with him.
Yeah.
She's coming for the camera that she knows Susan is watching.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it did seem like maybe, and that would have been pretty eerie too, to have the detective watch it and there's nothing there.
Of course.
Yeah.
But this is also a very cool moment.
It is. I just feel like the reaction did not match what.
No,
Yeah.
because I see this all the time. I've been murder police for 25
Yeah.
years.
Another ghost tape?
Damn.
Damn.
Again?
Back in her apartment, Karen leaves a note for Doug. Had to go out. Be home soon. I love you. Kay. Karen gets ready to leave, but takes one last look at Doug, sleeping soundly in the bed behind her as she goes. Karen walks to the dock that the apartment was overlooking at the beginning of the film. She turns on the street and sees the street where Peter met his end. As she looks up, the camera follows her gaze to the balcony that he fell from. We cut to Karen speaking to someone through an intercom next to a door. She introduces herself and apologizes for the intrusion before requesting to ask a few questions. When the woman on the other end asks what the questions are about, Karen acknowledges that this is weird, but she needs to talk about the woman's husband. She is immediately buzzed in. Once inside the apartment, she talks to Maria face to face. Maria is dressed up in a red dress with her makeup and hair done, which I don't know what red carpet she's late for, but I hope that Karen doesn't delay her.
Yeah.
I'm actually winning an Academy Award tonight.
Yeah.
So make this quick.
I guess it's been 3 years. She has a
Yeah.
new life now.
Yeah.
But she's taking photos out for Karen.
One thing I will say, though, if we're talking color theory, her dress is red.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that might mean something.
Okay.
There's a lot of strategically placed red
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
this.
Yoko's bike.
Yeah, and the
Oh,
scarf
yeah.
that she's wearing too.
Mm-hmm.
But she hands Karen a picture of her and Peter's first date and looks uneasy as Karen sits down and goes through the rest of the box. As she walks away, Karen continues to flip through them. There's a picture of Peter smiling at the camera, but there is a woman behind him with her face turned away. There's another picture of Peter and Maria together, but we pan over to see a woman in white standing away from them and looking in their direction. Karen furrows her brow as she continues to flip through, each and every picture marred by this strange woman skulking behind Peter or Peter and Maria. She even snatches a framed photo off the shelf, and there's the woman again. Peter and Maria pose and smile, but behind them, Kayako stares at us coldly.
So she hopefully told Maria about this, right? Or asked her, or was she just like, oh, thank you, and then just runs away?
Yeah.
Because the scene is done. That's it.
Right.
I'll be honest, when we came into this apartment, and again, I remember, even as it pertains to Peter's involvement of this, I remembered it incorrectly.
Me too.
So things were obviously a little bit fuzzy for me. When I saw her in that red dress, I was like, oh, she's gone. Like, she's dead. Like, something's going to happen in this apartment and Karen's going to have to flee. Like, but no, it's just, she's like, here's the pictures. She wanders out of frame and we never see her again.
Yeah.
It almost set it up a little bit like Brian Cox in The Ring remake.
Yes.
Where you're like, oh, something
okay.
very terrible is about to happen.
Yeah.
She's going to witness it.
But no.
Yeah. I did too. I was a little fuzzy on the details. So when she started looking through the pictures, I was like, this fucking guy, man. I was like, but because again, we're putting things together now. And I was like, oh man. But that is terrifying. Every picture you start to notice the one thing that's in there.
Multiple places.
Yes.
It's very, very frightening.
It's very frightening, but you're like, wow.
Yeah.
That's commitment to a bit. Like how did you know always where the camera was? How did you always know
Well, not
know?
only that, how unsafe do you feel now that you've been carefree this whole time and she was able to get that close or to be in every single one?
Oh, as Maria?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
it's terrifying.
That's probably why Karen never told her about it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
It's like, I don't want to ruin her day. She's going to win an Oscar tonight.
Right. Oh, you look beautiful. I gotta go.
Thank you for your
I'll
time. Please include me in your thank you speech.
We cut to the school where Professor Peter stands in front of his open locker. The door is decorated with photos of him and Maria. His coworker, Shimizu, played by Kazuyuki Sumora, comes over and gives Peter his mail. When Peter sighs, Shimizu muses that it's another one, huh? The jovial tone shifts a bit as Peter flips the letter back and forth, pointing out the woman's claim that she was in one of his classes, but he admits that he doesn't know who the hell she is. Shimizu walks away, and Peter thanks him for bringing the letter before they say goodbye. Peter pulls down a stack of letters from the top of his locker with the name Kayako Sayeki and her address neatly written in the corner of every envelope. After work, Peter consults one of these envelopes and finds the house, one that we've seen many times before at this point, the house where Yoko, Matthew, Jennifer, and Emma would meet their demise. I gotta say, because he's using the letters to find this house, I remembered, and obviously I was incorrect, I thought that they were having an affair.
Me too. I thought that he had slept with her and maybe led her on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he was maybe playing it up for his colleague, and he's like, yeah, I have no idea who this is. And he's like, oh shit, I need to.
But once he gets there, he really does. Like,
No.
he has no idea. He really does not know who this woman is.
Yeah, it seems like he's never been here before. It looks like.
No.
Yeah.
So I was in the same boat. I was like, is it, like I said, when she's seen the pictures of him before at, his wife's house, and I was like, okay, Karen seeing them, looking through them, and I was like, oh man, this dude, what? Something's going on here.
Yeah.
And then we get that, and then him showing up at the house confused. It's like, oh no, you don't know what's going on.
It is very weird to me that we all remembered it that way.
Yeah, because I thought it was almost like a spurned lover
Yeah.
situation. And this is why she's so angry. This is why she's trying to contact him, because they were an item.
Yeah.
Right.
And the obsessive behavior and journaling. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That is very odd to me. I wonder how many other people that haven't seen it in a while remember it that way.
Yeah. Let us know.
Yeah.
That is so odd. But Peter rings the doorbell. Of course, no one answers. He hears a door open on the other side of the house, and he walks around the back to investigate. Small arms hang limply over the railing, and Peter pushes the leaves of a tree aside to reveal Toshio. With nicks and a Band-Aid marring his small face, he gazes at the professor. Peter greets him and asks for his mother, but Toshio collapses backwards, thudding on the porch. Peter lets himself in, presumably following Toshio inside.
Yeah.
He's looking
Yeah.
for him, but it looks like Toshio just like fell.
Mm-hmm.
But then he comes in and he's like looking around. I don't know. I didn't see him go inside. I guess he went inside.
Is there some kind of supernatural logic that we can...
Yeah, we'll blame it on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Peter calls out, again, to no answer. He investigates the house, ripping open the door to the bathroom to reveal Toshio slumped next to the full bathtub. Peter immediately goes to him. He carries the boy into the messy living room and sits him up on the couch. He asks him in Japanese if he's alone here. Toshio just stares forward blankly. Peter asks where his parents are, and again, he gets nothing from the kid. But when he reaches out toward him, Toshio flinches and leans out of reach.
Wouldn't this make you want to call
Yes.
the police or the ambulance or something and be like, look, there's a child alone. He's kind of roughed up. Can somebody come over here?
Yeah, almost like Karen did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peter sits down on the opposite couch, but a ripped photo catches his eye. He pushes the pieces together to reveal the family photo, the one with Kayako's face ripped out of it. A cat meows, and Peter looks around the room suspiciously before going to the window. As he peers out, an out-of-focus Toshio turns toward him. He opens his mouth wide, unleashing the cat's loud yowling. It cuts to black.
So it doesn't seem like Peter caught this or anything.
No, he
Yeah,
didn't see it. He was
no.
looking out the window.
All right. Well, that meow is not a sight to see.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that this boy already has the cat in his mouth, we've already determined the timeline here, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, that
You
is
know?
true. Yeah.
Yeah. The cutting to black, honestly, in retrospect, I'm a little pissed off right now.
Okay.
Because honestly, don't you think that we should have some kind of a scene between Kayako and Peter, even if she's already dead?
Okay.
Oh.
To have nothing at all is really strange.
Wait,
Right.
I didn't even think about that until you're talking about the boy having the cat in his mouth, because I'm thinking that all of this happens
Yes.
tonight.
Okay.
What happens, what we see later. But it had to have already happened.
Yeah,
Right.
if he's already got this spirit, if he's not a living Toshio anymore,
Right.
which he can't be because his soul is already seemingly merged with this cat.
Right. Cat boy.
Yeah,
Cat boy.
on Fox this fall. But
Right after Come In Little Fart.
So 8:30.
yes,
Yeah, right.
8:30. We've got our time slots. Talk Mortem, join the party.
At the police station, Karen stops to ask an officer, played by Taigi Kobayashi, for help. He leads her to the roof where Detective Nakagawa stands alone and pensive. Karen presents him with the printout of her findings, imploring that she needs to speak with him. She explains that the woman that lived in that house knew this American professor, and he took his own life the morning after she died. Nakagawa matches her freak by asserting that he doesn't think that Peter did take his own life. They're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
They are. It's a way to say it.
Yeah.
Karen just wants to know what's going on. So leaning against the railing, the detective tells her, 3 years ago, 3 of his colleagues and friends started to investigate a case. 2 of them died under mysterious circumstances and another one just disappeared, but they were all investigating the murders that happened in that house. Karen asks if he's really saying those detectives died because of the house. She reminds him that she's been in there, and so has he. Nakagawa lowers his head before turning toward the skyline. He explains to her that in Japan, they say when a person dies in extreme sorrow or rage, the emotion remains, becoming a stain upon the place. The memory repeats itself there, and death becomes a part of it, killing everything it touches. The wind blows Karen's hair as Nakagawa delivers the final blow. Once you become a part of it, it will never let you go. He offers a sincere apology before bowing and leaving her alone on the rooftop.
I would very much appreciate if he had said, and also last night I saw the scariest fucking video I've ever seen in my life. That confirms everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild that he hasn't told anyone about this,
That's crazy.
especially someone who is in the know who could stand to know these things.
Yeah.
I feel like literally if you plucked the scene of him watching the surveillance out of this movie, nothing changes.
It doesn't.
Because
No.
nothing comes of that discovery at all.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be able to sleep after watching that shit.
Are
He's
you
just
fucking
out there
kid-
cool.
That's why he's trying to get his mind right on the,
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
roof.
And I'm also a little annoyed because whenever you think about it, he has more history and more evidence that there is something definitely wrong with this house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even when he was there, he wasn't even acting like it.
No.
He's lost 3 colleagues to spirits that have apparently come from this house and killed them.
Right.
But he's there and he's just like flipping through photographs and looking through shit.
Yeah.
Interviewing people. He's nothing to his
Yeah.
partner. Like our colleagues are the last place they were was here.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if he was trying to play it cool, you're right. He does have a history to this house.
Yeah.
It would be hard even if we got a little him being nervous or being like, you okay? Yeah, just whatever. Then,
Yeah.
something's clearly bothering him.
Or even like angry or like,
Yeah.
we have to figure this out. Or,
Mhm.
I mean, something.
I know you do have a shot of him when he is entering the house first where he's standing outside for a second.
Yeah.
But it's just enough to say, oh, this is the detective arriving on the scene.
Yeah.
It's not like, I think he feels something about this house.
Right.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
Well, we have that one moment in the hospital when his assistant is like, remember 3 years ago? And he's like,
You have to be reminded?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, all that stuff happened.
Yeah.
It feels
Like, really?
Oh, those 3 guys?
Yeah.
it feels like this is added and it gives our detective more of a stake in figuring this all out. And so this being added so late into the film, you think that he's going to have this arc of maybe even like revenge or something.
Yeah, if he liked steak a little more, then it
Oh,
would
right.
probably,
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
It would help. It would help me.
Yeah,
if he did.
well, I mean, we would know that he liked steak.
Right.
Yeah.
That's helpful
Right?
somehow.
Because he's got a steak in this.
He does.
He does.
Yeah.
He's got a steak salad in this.
No,
We're not going
we're
back
not
there.
going back there.
Wasn't that lady wearing red?
Oh,
Oh, no, we're not going there either. Here's the thing as well. We do get a little bit later regarding these colleagues,
Yes.
but I feel like it is too late in the game to be adding so many details.
Right.
I agree.
Like
Especially when you're not really going to carry the ball over the line.
No,
Yeah.
there's got to be something there that we can kind of be like, oh, that's why he was so weird about this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah.
Do you guys like my sports analogy back there?
Steak?
I think that's all he remembers.
He's hungry.
Yeah.
Let's finish up.
You can continue.
It's also funny to me the way that he's like, oh, we're fucking cursed and screwed. You have a good day now. And then he
Yeah.
leaves.
No attempt to try to join forces
Nope.
or
No.
say we can do something, we can take care of it. There's someone I know, nothing.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially if that is what we are moving forward with. We were in that house and now we're fucked. What do we have to lose? We might as well try to figure this out together.
Yeah.
But later in his office, Nakagawa looks at photos from the scene of the crime 3 years ago. His attention is pulled to 3 detectives standing in the background. He takes out a different set of pictures featuring these 3 detectives. They smile and celebrate and hang out with Nakagawa. He takes a long look at the memories of his lost friends. That night, he returns to the house, ducking under the yellow police tape and walking up to the front door with the red gas can in each hand. The words warning him to keep out do little use behind his back as he lets himself into the house.
I actually really liked this.
Yeah.
That he's like, we're not wasting any time at all. This is what's going on, then this is what I'm doing about
We're
it.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would like to know this character more instead of just learning 2 seconds ago that he does have some stakes in this house.
Yeah.
I think that I had alluded up at the top that there was a character I was very interested in and wanted him to have more to do. It's Nakagawa.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know.
And especially the actor playing him.
Yeah.
Yes.
We know what he's capable of.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. But once inside, he sets the cans down and begins to open one of them. But he stops in his tracks when he hears a child crying. He abandons the gas cans and walks further into the house when the child begins to scream. We can hear the dunking of water and the child coughing and sputtering. Nakagawa follows these noises into the bathroom where he finds Toshio leaning over the full bathtub, his face submerged. Nakagawa snaps into action, pulling the child out of the water and holding him in his arms, attempting to revive him. But suddenly, with the aid of a musical sting, Toshio's eyes pop open. The detective is startled and jumps backward, but we can see someone in a plaid shirt standing behind him. Just as Nakagawa turns his head, he is grabbed and his face is thrust into the water. The detective fights against the person drowning him, and we see through the chaotic waves of the water, Takeo peering down.
Am I incorrect in stating that we never see Detective Nakagawa again?
We never see him again.
Yeah.
It is honestly one of my biggest issues with this film. I don't even necessarily need his hero arc to be fully realized. I just think this man is smarter than this, specifically if he is familiar with that original case and he knows that nobody was in this house. And I mean, I get that your instinct is to help a kid, but I think that I don't even know that he would have left the doorway.
No.
You saw that surveillance tape. You know what they're capable of doing. You don't think they're above making sad sounds so that you want to come to the rescue? I just don't think he would fall for this, I guess I'm saying.
Yeah.
He honestly, I would feel that he kind of, and especially he just said he told the story of the folklore and legend to Karen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he would know that it's there are deceptive practices going on.
Right.
And you know what happened in this house.
Yes.
You know that somebody was drowned and you hear drowning noises.
Burn it down.
Just burn it. I mean, I don't think he would fall for this. And this is the end of him.
Yeah, it's
so we
it.
just have to assume that he was drowned.
No, yeah, I was very surprised as well because, again, we do like this character. We're following him. We're seeing what's going on. And I do think the gas cans were a bit much, but I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
Because, bad shit's going on here. It's spreading. It's whatever. And yeah, I was a little... I will say, honestly, I was bummed because it does feel very fast.
Yeah, underwhelming.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Underwhelming underwater.
I don't need him to live and save the day. I'm not even upset that he was killed. It's just that adds to the tragedy of it all. It's just the way that it happened. It feels a bit kind of anticlimactic and undeserved, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I am curious how it goes in the original.
Yeah.
Because it oddly, I don't know, it's almost like a producer in your ear saying, hey, we haven't had a death in 7 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? Because it doesn't feel earned. It just feels wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing that we've determined as well with Yoko coming back and killing Alex and the fact that Kayako's spirit used Matthew's visage to gain entry into Susan's apartment.
Yeah.
That anybody at all that dies in this house can be used in this way.
Right.
So why do we have this scene with Nakagawa and Karen meeting each other and knowing each other, and then also him visiting her in the hospital? Why isn't he brought back for this last act or last scene or whatever, whenever she will undoubtedly arrive at this house?
Yeah.
Why can't he give her this false sense of security for a little while?
Yeah.
Like his spirit or his visage being used for that.
You know what? Why weren't his friends used for him?
No shit. Yeah.
That's a good point.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I don't either. I feel bad because I remember this movie so fondly. It is honestly a little bit painful realizing how much.
Yeah.
I don't know how many issues I have.
There's some. I mean, I still am enjoying it. I will say that.
Yeah.
But it is breaking it down and kind of looking at it, taking a step back and looking at it.
Yeah.
You do notice the seams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But when Karen returns home, it's dark outside. She calls for Doug, but when she turns the lights on, the apartment is empty. Karen looks over at her desk, where Doug seems to have found the printouts of her investigation. Putting together what's happened, she looks afraid, but she notices the message on the answering machine. She presses the button, and Doug's voice fills the room. He asks her where she's been all day and admits that he's worried about her. He tells her flatly, over the answering machine, that the care center called and Alex and Yoko are both dead.
Oh, thanks.
Wow.
My jaw dropped.
Yeah.
Not in a Yoko kind of way, but it did. I was like, are you fucking for real?
I was not expecting that. Right now, the rest of this message, I was kind of confused. I was like, are you for real?
Yeah.
I was like, do you... Because it almost comes off I'll say confused, maybe. It's just very like, I was like, do you not know where she works? You don't know. You guys have been together for what, 3 months? At least we know.
Mm-hmm.
Here, you don't know where she hangs out at what, like.
Something is very off.
Something.
Yes.
And I am surprised actually what was off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll talk.
Yeah. Karen clamps a hand over her mouth, shocked and horrified to hear this news, but Doug continues. He tells her that he found her research and asks if she went to that house. We glide over the printed articles that she found before closing in on Karen's face. Doug's voice warns her, "I'm coming to find you." I have dead eyes staring back at me. We're going to continue. On the street, Karen sprints along with the traffic, causing vehicles to honk and go around her. But Doug has already made it to the house. He lets himself inside and notes the 2 gas cans on the ground by the front door before eyeing the entry with a smile for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't understand. This is the moment that I realized because, look, in all honesty, that answering machine message was so ridiculous and so poorly done.
Yeah.
I really thought, okay, this is the spirit luring Karen back into this house.
Like with Matthew on the phone.
Exactly.
It felt like a ruse.
It's like there is no way that this is meant to actually be Doug. And when I see his ass in that fucking house, I'm like, are you joking me?
No, I used the word confused, but you know what I mean? It didn't feel genuine.
It was flat.
Yeah. Very flat.
My mind was blown.
Yeah. And the smile was too much.
Yes.
I don't know.
I
don't know why he's smiling.
No.
And I got to be honest, the other thing as well, whenever we're talking about having watched this at a very young age, you realize how little Doug has to do or how much he adds to this story.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling you.
So much so that whenever we have this thing of him actually in the house, I'm like, oh, I forget that you even have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
You know?
He's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like he's unnecessary unless you were going to do something. And I know, that you could argue that there is a moment with some emotional weight coming up. I didn't necessarily feel the weight because I'll be honest, I don't give a fuck about Doug. I don't care about Doug.
No, my heartstrings were untugged.
But I mean, if you were going to go for that, maybe give us a little bit more of them together or of him being the supportive boyfriend, which I know, technically he was at the hospital and stuff, but this whole, oh yeah, your coworkers, they're dead. Like just thinking like, I don't, something feels very off. It feels maybe rushed. I mean, this movie's only an hour and a half. We could have spent a little more time.
Yeah, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I'll be honest, there's no worries, no dialogue, just this dude wandering around for a second.
Yeah.
And it's very, what?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I will say there is a deleted scene in a morgue of Alex and Yoko's bodies on slabs. And Nakagawa goes and he talks to the coroner, and they say something about there was blood found on Alex's body, but it's not his. And they're like, whose was it? It was hers. And they point over to a sheet covering Yoko's body. And so they were like, so he killed her? And then like they're trying to piece it together, and they're like, no, that's not what happened at all. And so you do get a bit of a scene where they even discover and say the fact that Alex did die that night.
Yeah.
Before,
we leave him screaming. That's the last time we saw
and then
him.
instead it's like, hey babe, I got extra, pizza for tonight. Also, your coworkers.
By
the way. And so, I don't know.
It's really bizarre.
It is.
Karen continues to run to the house, but Doug has already climbed to the second floor. As she races along the narrow drive up to the house, Doug makes a phone call from one of the upstairs rooms, ignorant to the door slowly creaking open behind him. Once Karen finally makes it to the house, she pauses and looks up at the second floor before going in. After staring into Emma's room, her sheets still rumpled and the indent from her head still denting the pillow, she calls out for Doug. A man's voice, faint from the distance, asks upstairs, "Did you get my message?" He continues to speak, ignoring Karen when she calls out again. Suspicious, Karen slowly walks up the stairs, and as soon as she reaches the second floor, inexplicable sunlight brightens her face, and the sound of birds chirping fills the house. When we glide along the second floor, it's no longer night, but daytime, and standing at the end of the hall is Peter on the phone with his wife. I really liked this a lot.
Absolutely. I really enjoy the switch in the lighting.
Yeah.
And it happens again, and it takes on a completely different atmosphere.
Yes. Yeah. Peter promises to call Maria as soon as he leaves here, which he estimates will be in about 10 minutes. Karen stares up at him, backing against the wall. He ends the call, telling Maria that he loves her before hanging up. But once he does, worry encroaches on his features as he opens the door to Toshio's room. He remarks that he guesses Toshio's mom is going to be late, but Toshio is on the floor drawing on a paper. He doesn't answer Peter, but he does look up and stare right into Karen's eyes. She stares back at him, and when Peter follows Toshio's gaze, she looks up at him. Confused, Peter looks out into the hall where Toshio stares and seems to look right at Karen. He closes the door, separating himself from the child, but there's a high-pitched whining when Peter looks down toward the end of the hall. They're going into the dream world again.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy VIII.
Very good.
Peter lets himself inside what we will learn is a very unpleasant room, but now it seems to be a bright art room. Framed art adorns the walls, and there is a desk full of art supplies and pictures. When Peter enters, Karen follows close behind him. Something catches his eye, and when he kneels down to the carpet to pick it up, he finds the cutout piece of Kayako's face from the family picture. He looks at it for a moment with some sadness before noticing the rest of the photos on the desk. In every single one, whether she is with her husband and son or only her son, Kayako's face is crudely removed. Under the pictures, he finds the diary that Karen would later discover in the closet. He opens it up and begins to read. I'm in love with someone, but he doesn't know I exist. Karen kneels down next to him as Kayako's calm voice reads out her entries. Her voice overlaps itself as she continues to read, but one word is clear and repeated over and over. Peter. We see her sketch of the man standing next to the woman with her hair shrouding her face. Peter and Kayako is written girlishly, surrounded by red-colored hearts. Peter's jaw drops in shock and disgust when he finds hair taped to a page. On another, there's a rendering of a hand with nail clippings taped to the tips of the fingers.
I understand previously I was joking about commitment to a bit. This is far. This is too far. Don't do this to people.
No. Can I just get the note to like check yes or no?
Yeah.
And is he clipping his fingernails in his office? I don't know. And you shouldn't be doing that. It's
He's
a home
leaving
activity.
him on like cafe tables.
Yeah. Hope nobody steals these.
That's gross.
For nefarious reasons.
His name is written again and again and again, and Kayako's voice repeats it until it cuts off when the ripped picture of Peter falls to the floor. It is interesting because learning that Kayako is lingering in the background of that photo, you realize that she ripped Maria out of it.
Yeah.
So on all the pictures with her family, she took herself out, but the one with Peter, she's still there and his wife is ripped out.
Damn.
That's really, I mean, it's very sad, very disturbing, but I thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Peter and Karen both lean in to grab the picture.
Why the fuck would you do that?
It's like I got a little too confused in this. I don't know where I am.
I don't want to say you're in this hallucination, but you're in this flashback.
You're right.
That or his whoever's flashback.
Somehow, and I don't understand why Karen's so fucking important that she gets to see this. The house is like, she's done all the research. Let's let her in on what's going on.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Just the fact that he dropped it and she was like, oh, let me help. That fucking made me.
She's a very good person.
Yeah.
But Peter senses her presence and freezes. Karen stands and starts to back away, but he follows her, slowly reaching his hand out toward her. But Karen realizes he's not reaching for her. He's reaching at what he's just discovered on the closet door. All of the Kayako faces that were removed from the pictures are pinned here, most of them smeared with blood. Eerie music plays as we trail along them, but it stops when the journal opens by itself. It flips to a page where the paper has been torn, revealing a staring eye on the page behind it. Flies buzz loudly from the closet, and Peter turns back toward it, noticing the blood streaked at the handle. He pulls it to the side and peers in, the flies buzzing louder from the panel in the ceiling that sits slightly askew. Frantic music mounts and mingles with the buzzing of flies as Peter starts to climb inside the closet. But before he does, Kayako's body flops out hair first. She crashes into the closet upside down, her body wrapped in bags and her face staring desperately. Peter runs to Toshio's room, but once inside, there's a rhythmic thumping. He flees out of the front door while Karen watches from the second floor. The rhythmic thumping coming from Toshio's room only gets louder and louder, and the door creaks as Karen pushes it open. Legs, suspended from the ceiling, swing, and the feet hit the wall repeatedly, causing the thumping. Karen sees it all in staticky black and white.
There's a moment in the director's cut that is a little unsettling, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
It shows a pale-faced Toshio pushing those legs to hit the wall. And he's playing with this body like it's a toy.
Damn.
And it's pretty, like, yikes.
That is very disturbing.
Yeah.
But good. I would have liked to see it implemented. Like I was saying before, this sequence that we're about to see, you see very, very little.
Mm-hmm.
And there are ways, we've talked about it time and time again, where you don't need to see a lot to feel like you saw a lot. For me, that wasn't the case here, especially when you're talking about the whole genesis of this situation is this death and such a horrific, I mean, enough to make this spirit's rage and sorrow linger here and repeat this over and over.
Mm-hmm.
This is the moment where we're supposed to walk away fucked up, like changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sound like a ghoul, but like this was the time.
Yeah.
I feel like the most graphic thing that we see is probably Yoko. And who is Yoko to this?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that bothered me so much about Yoko being used in that way is that the rage that it seems would be needed for this to happen is through this family.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yoko was like a surprise kill. Like she didn't even have time to be sad or upset.
No.
You know,
Damn
or
it.
angry.
Yeah.
That is interesting. That is interesting that you bring that up because I didn't think about that. And we do see enough, I feel like, to understand what's happening. But yeah, I feel like just a little more punch here. This is the family and the house that it happened to.
Yeah.
So
this is where it all started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like, and I don't even know how to even critique it because every issue, I'll speak for myself, every issue that I've had so far in this film has been narrative. I really enjoy Shimizu's method of suspense. And I mean, a lot of it has been really, really frightening. So I don't know exactly what it is here that I'm like, okay, like, I don't know.
Well, but we talked off mic. He's directing a remake of his own film, sure, but he did not write the screenplay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But as I said, Karen sees it all in staticky black and white. Takeo reading his wife's diary, his hands clenched into fists. When Kayako walks into the room, she is immediately stricken with horror when she sees the journal in his hand. He drops it to the floor, clenching his fists until his joints crack. Kayako stumbles backwards in her fear, but Takeo advances on her. He snatches up the cat by the back of its neck as it yowls in protest. He drowns the cat in the bathtub before attacking Kayako, throwing her down before cracking his neck. He drowns their son before placing him in the closet and slowly pulling the door closed. Kayako tries to crawl down the stairs as she screams, but her husband is close behind. Karen stares with tear-filled eyes at the end result of Takeo's reign of terror hanging from the ceiling in Toshio's bedroom.
There is seemingly a scene cut from this sequence that's in the director's cut.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I will say, firstly, I love the creative choice of making this so grainy and like,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. But the thing that is cut is, and it's very gruesome and very grisly, but it shows Toshio watching from the banister like he was watching Karen. And what happens down below on the first floor is Takeo has Kayako in like a stranglehold and he breaks her neck.
Oh my God.
And she makes eye contact with Toshio as this happens. And so it kind of informs that moment that we saw before, why he was at the banister like that and why he looked so fearful in his eyes.
Yeah.
Because that's what he saw there.
Yeah.
But, and this
Damn.
was, Shimizu said that this was Sam Raimi's favorite moment in the film, but it still got cut for the theatrical release.
Come
Damn.
on. I will say, too, I read that there was an aspect cut where he stabs her with a box cutter.
Good Lord.
And that's why when we see her wrapped in that plastic, she's bleeding.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's horrific. I mean, like I know because I was like, why is it so tame or whatever.
Yeah.
When you think about what was done here, it is unimaginable. It's horrific. It's tragic. It's horrible. I feel like what we have learned this moment, just maybe in my head, I'm just imagining something more, I don't know, brutal. I don't know.
Yeah.
Visually.
No, and I understand. I think for me, what, and I know I'll speak about it a little later, it's just the quickness of how all this plays out. It's just very fast, and I don't know if I don't have time to react to what's happening because we go from one thing to the next.
True.
Super quick, but it is something did, I don't want to say make me care less, but I was just more watching it instead of experiencing it.
Well, I just feel like I said before, this is the moment that the whole film originates from. So it does deserve a moment of gravity, a moment to breathe, a moment of, oh my God, that's why this place is fucking cursed.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really, I mean, I don't know.
I think maybe in a PG-13 movie, it's hard to give you what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what we got was kind of pushing the limit on the rating.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let me go on and shut the fuck up.
Right, I take it back.
Yeah. Edit all that stuff out. But Karen stumbles down the stairs, and when she passes the mirror, Kayako's reflection passes on the other side. She turns and faces it head on, but as she peers at her own reflection, someone grabs her foot. It's Doug, somehow injured and unable to speak. I was like, what the fuck happened to you?
Yeah.
She tries to comfort him, but a door slams upstairs and snatches her attention. I will say I like that this is like we've already seen her get grabbed the same way by Emma earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of cool. I would have liked maybe if she did see Emma for a second, because this house seems to hold on to shit and repeat it and repeat it. You know what I mean?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Here and there.
Mostly here.
Yeah.
She turns to look when she hears movement on the stairs. It's Kayako, slowly crawling loose from the bag her husband stowed her body in. Her hair is unbound and matted, and she moves jerkily as she crawls down the stairs. She rasps desperately. Karen tries to pull Doug toward the door, but Kayako has already made it to them. She grabs Doug's legs, and he stares at her in numb terror. She climbs up to him, and tears spill from his eyes as he falls backwards. Seemingly dead from fright, Doug stares up at Karen as she cowers by the front door. His face is obstructed by the curtain of Kayako's hair as she lowers her face to his. Karen glances up at Toshio, watching silently from the railing of the second floor. Just then, Kayako abruptly raises her pale and blood-streaked face and stares at Karen. She croaks and reaches out for her. Karen opens the front door, only to be greeted by Kayako again. Her face starts high in the slit of the door, but travels down seamlessly to Karen's level. Karen just slams the door.
All right. Why didn't anybody else think of that?
Yeah.
The imagery here is terrifying.
It is, and it all works visually.
It does. Panting, Karen looks over at Doug's body, but the silence is broken when the drawers, doors, and windows begin to rattle loudly in their frames. A cacophony of screams sounds when Karen crawls over to Doug. With him cradled in her lap, she finds his lighter in his jacket and glances at the gas cans that Nakagawa opened. Without hesitation, she kicks it over and gas spills out. Karen struggles to light the lighter as glass objects and framed photos fall and crash around her, but she finally gets it lit. She pulls her arm back to throw it, but Doug grabs her arm before she can. She looks down at him, confused, but she's not cradling Doug anymore. She's cradling Kayako, who rasps louder than ever as she holds onto Karen's arm. Karen pulls away and throws the lighter, and the flames erupt. Kayako brings her face close to Karen's, but Karen stares back, steadfast. Our view dissolves into white. It match cuts to a white sheet being lifted by the morgue detective, played by Eiji Oki. After taking a look at the body, he bows to the assistant before stepping out into the hallway. He's met with the morgue doctor, played by Katsuhiro Oyama. The doctor identifies the patient as a Caucasian male around his mid-20s. The detective asks about the woman, but the doctor says they're sending for her now. With the assistance of a nurse, Karen is brought into the hallway. She is battered, injured, bruised, and dazed. As they watch her, the doctor asks how she was able to survive, but the detective explains that they're still investigating, but they were able to save the house.
There is something funny, and it was a bit of like a recovered memory whenever I was watching this and taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we got to this moment in the movie theater, I don't remember where it came from. I think it was from behind us. But they say, we were able to save the house. Somebody in the theater says, no!
Well, you know what that means.
Yes, I remember like fucking dying. I was like 13 and I was like, no, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. I don't know if you remember.
I don't. That's so fucking funny.
They were distraught.
They were invested.
Yes.
They were really invested. I love that. But once Karen arrives, she glances at both of them before letting herself into the morgue. No one tries to stop her, and when she reaches Doug's shrouded body, she sobs. The detective watches from the doorway sadly before closing the door and allowing Karen her privacy. Alone now, Karen reaches for his body with a bandaged hand, but she is startled back when the body beneath the sheet twitches. A sheet of black hair and a ghostly gray arm falls from beneath the stark white blanket. But when she looks again, it's Doug's burned arm. Karen looks back down at the sheet, but we see that someone is standing behind her, back to back with her. Karen suddenly senses this and her slack features tighten. Kayako's rasping begins as realization dawns on Karen's horrified face. She turns toward the dark hair behind her, only to be met with Kayako's staring eye, opened wide in the darkness. Her croak ends, it cuts to black, and the credits roll.
Before we get to the customary question,
Mm-hmm.
there is something that I did hear about on commentary that I sought out on the DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And Shimizu had said that Sarah Michelle Gellar preferred the other ending that the film had.
Okay.
And I was like, there's another ending? And it's not listed as an alternate ending. So if I had seen this scene deleted, I would have just thought that it was between what happened at the house and this ending at the hospital.
Right.
But Karen is taken out on a stretcher by an ambulance that arrives at the house, and she's put into the back of the ambulance. But she looks out the window, and when she looks out the window, she sees the house years before, and she sees the Saiki family arriving and moving in.
Wow.
And Kayako is following Takeo into the house, but she makes eye contact with Toshio. And he turns around and he looks at Karen through the window, and then Kayako calls him into the house.
Yeah.
And then that's it. That's the end of the scene.
I kind of like that better. I feel like both endings convey that this is not over.
Right.
As that very upset person in the theater claimed. But I just think that other one does it in a more it's almost a sadder way
Yeah.
to see them at their beginning here. Like, that's sad. And it makes you wonder what is going on in this house. Does this predate that family?
Oh, yeah.
And they were happy in the scene. And it's like this is the start of a new thing. This is a new chapter or whatever it is when you move into a new house.
Mhm.
But knowing where it goes, it's a very tragic thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know which one I like more. I think this ending is this is the theater make the moment before the end credits.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other one is a little more pensive and thoughtful.
Yeah.
But I have to ask. So, what did you guys think of The Grudge?
So I will be honest, and I did really still enjoy the movie. I think for me, I'm not sure if I'm sure it was the plot or like what's going what was going on. But
Right.
I mean, it is good. The visuals are good. Everybody, you know what I mean, for the most part, does what they're supposed to be doing. It does feel strange at times. Some pieces of the movie, and you saying that, the short film thing really kind of did make it feel like acts or segments or whatever. But there was just that one with Susan that was very strong.
Yeah.
But it did kind of break its own rules, and I'm not too big on the, who cares what, you know what I mean? But it, in a movie like this, it when you do stop to pay attention to it, it is noticeable. And then it does kind of make confusion for things that happen later on in the movie that even though they're moving quick, it is still, like you said, if you're able to get Susan by tricking her with that, why are you not doing that again? Or why are we not seeing anybody that you've taken already and using them as bait or what, any of that, any of the ghost shit. But it is still good. But I don't know if the momentum is like to just watch it. Sit down and watch it with your friends or sit down and watch it with whoever you're kicking it with or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it did hurt it for me having to stop and scene by scene go through it and pay attention to stuff.
I remember watching it and enjoying so much of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of how striking the imagery is.
Yeah.
There's so much to remember. There are so many really, really good moments of horror.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I don't know. And that's kind of what, and I had no idea with what you had told us in the production section of the introduction, that it was a compilation of, in a way, of some short films.
Yeah.
And you kind of do feel that, and I don't know how it feels in the original version.
Yeah.
Maybe it is more a matter of the screenplay written by Steven Susko that kind of changes things to make it a little more unsatisfying narratively.
Could be.
But there is something that just does not work, does not feel cohesive to me. But at the same time, there's this powerful nostalgia that's just attached to it forever.
Oh, yeah.
Some of these visuals, that sound, the croaking noise.
Yeah.
There are so many good things about this film, and maybe it is a matter of revisiting it as an adult that I kind of am more upset about it.
Yeah.
Because to me, again, if you had asked me a couple weeks ago, what do you think of The Grudge? I'm like, oh, that's one of the scariest films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Without hesitation.
Yeah.
But rewatching it, it's like, these moments of horror do work visually and with the sound design, the cinematography. A lot of these moments are still really, really good.
Yeah.
But how does it fit into the whole?
Yeah. That's what she said. But
All right, decorum. W-H-O-L-E. Whole.
Yeah. I agree with both of y'all. I think that there is he's still shaking his head. I think that there is a level of disappointment here that I wasn't really prepared for. With that being said, though, I do still enjoy this, and there is a nostalgia to it that will never be erased. I will never not have watched this as a teenager. I will never not have gotten the shit scared out of me the first time I saw this. I will never have not grown up around everybody making that fucking sound, myself included. That can never be taken away. So I think adding on this level of like, well, goddamn, like that story's kind of disappointing actually. And I will say, I've already said I really wanted more from Nakagawa. I really need to know what the fuck is going on with Kayako.
Yeah.
Why are we so fucking obsessed? Were you really a student? What interaction happened? What is really going on in that house with your husband? Because he read a diary of you having feelings for another man. This is what he did immediately?
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on? What is going on? I would have really liked, and I can see how it could very easily be too much, or exploring that aspect could be a slippery slope. I get that, but I would have liked more than nothing.
Well, you tell me what was accomplished by seeing Peter go to the house and spend time with Toshio.
I mean, I don't know.
He found the house?
That's
Yeah.
it. Why wasn't it Kayako? Even
I
if
don't
it's her
know.
spirit.
Yeah.
That would make a lot more sense to have that moment.
Why wasn't she
Okay.
there? Or maybe Takeo pissed off.
Yeah, because they're all dead already.
Yeah. I don't know. And I feel like really zooming out and getting the whole story, although it was told in a nonlinear way, realizing what characters knew at what time, even when we didn't know things, people don't always behave accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
And that bothers me. I think that I really love nonlinear storytelling. I just, one of the reasons I love it so much is it begs you to watch it again and understand things in a chronological order that you didn't have the first time that you watched it. And having that, there are no really aha moments. There are no, oh my God, that's why she fucking said that. That's why he was upset. That's why he keeps looking at those pictures in his wallet. No, there is none of that. It's just really odd.
Yeah.
You know?
That's kind of, the whole point of nonlinear storytelling.
Yeah.
Is to give you those moments to kind of fit these pieces together that were scrambled.
Yes.
Right.
There's that aha moment where
Yeah.
everything clicks together, and I didn't really feel that. I'm just going to slide into ratings as well. We'll just do all this at once, okay? Because I feel like I've talked quite a bit. It's just, it is this really odd feeling, and nostalgia will not let me rate this too low. It just won't. It holds a special place for me, even though I am a little upset at her right now. The Grudge itself. I feel like I remembered it being so much more cohesive and so much more just rug pulled out from underneath you. And I don't think that it is. I think that if I watched this film for the first time at my big age in 2024, I'd be like, it was fine, honestly. But it cannot be ignored, the moments of scares that really fucking work. That entire sequence with Susan is top shelf. It is still scary. It's still unnerving. Kayako herself, she's terrifying. And the part is played to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things that are just unimpeachable. I can't say anything bad about them, but I can say bad stuff about the narrative and the story and its cohesion. I won't repeat myself any further. I've already said what I would have liked more of, what ultimately panned out to be kind of disappointing to me. But this movie, I think, is still a good time. I can't fully divorce myself from the nostalgia, but I think that it is safe to say that it is not bad. It's not a bad watch. It's just when you peel back the layers and you look too closely, just like don't be doing that, I think is my takeaway. So this one is a little bit hard to rate for me, but I'm thinking a number in my head and I'm just going to pull the trigger on it because, like I said, I can't in good conscience go any lower on a movie that I loved so much for so long, even if I was loving a memory and not quite what the film actually is. To some extent, I don't really care, but re-examining it, I do have those issues. And I'm glad that I did not watch Ju-on for this, because I think that it will be nice to cover that completely on its own at a later date and look at it only for what it is instead of comparing and contrasting to this version of it.
Yeah.
So on a scale from 1 to 10, sad and sinister spirits, I guess that I'm getting the Grudge. 7 sad and sinister spirits out of 10. I still have a lot of love for this film. And it is hard for me to look its problems in the face because it is, like you said, T, if you would have asked me a week ago, yeah, dude, The Grudge is fucking, it's terrifying, da-da-da. There are moments that are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of problems with it that I didn't know that I had. And thanks, Pod Mortem, now I do. But I will now open up the floor to you.
No, I think, or I feel everything we've said, there's, you know what I mean? There's a good reason for it, or there's a good, you know, I feel the same way. I really, really enjoyed, and Yoko, the whole scene with her coming back and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that too.
That also feels different because, again, where did you come from? Why did you get to go out? Or why did you get to come out? Are you alive? Are you not? Are you a ghost? Or are you a ghoul? Are you what's happening here? And then it just cuts off, and then that's it. That does look cool, but that's a different movie, or that's part of something else.
Yeah.
And again, like we've said about the Susan bit, everything is really cool, but I think it is just that. We get these really cool visuals and segments that are going, but you just stay within that momentum. You don't look at the other stuff that's in the background. You're just kind of like, oh shit, what's happening there? Oh, now we're doing this. And again, for me, I think I said it a little earlier. I think about the last 20 minutes is just really quick.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Everything just happens really, really fast. And it's like, we got to do this. We're running out of time. And I understand it's the climax of the movie. We got to get to whatever. But even that, I'm going to be honest too. You saying there is no, you know, you don't.
Yeah.
Even the ending, I was just like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
She's safe. Oh, she's not safe.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Oh.
No.
Yeah.
Save
But that is true though. For me anyway, I didn't. You know what I mean? I didn't ever feel that. But it is something that has stood the test of fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will, like you said, T, you ask anybody, you remember The Grudge? Oh, it's fucking great. It's like, yeah, it is. But it does. It does hurt having to stop and see what's going on and pay attention. It's like, well, now, like, you know, the rules, you breaking your own rules, then the story, whatever, and then Doug, whatever he was doing.
Who?
That one guy. But I mean, again, it is just repeat, just gonna say the same things. But for me, on a scale from 1 to 10, sad and sinister spirits, I'm also gonna give The Grudge a 7. I really, really like when we do get that imagery or those scares. I really, really enjoy a lot of that, and it does. For me, it won't let me go under the 7 for that.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like those moments are so impactful still 20 years later.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so upsetting about this narrative is you have everything here that you need, really.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what is going on. I don't know why some things feel so disjointed. Things feel like they're a part of a different film almost.
Mm-hmm.
Rules being broken that have no reason to be, or break those rules and continue with it.
Yeah.
Show us some more of these spirits that have been killed from or in this house that, you know, like Karen doesn't know anything about this family, and yet it's only this family that's fucking with her. That's weird.
It is.
You know?
Yeah.
She knows Nakagawa. She knows, you know, so it's just, it's very strange. She knows Yoko.
Yeah, she does.
And thinking about it, you said something earlier. You're right. We get Toshio for a lot of the stuff we should be getting Kayako for.
Yeah, and especially with Peter arriving back at the house. That made no sense to me.
Yeah.
You don't even know Kayako, but you know you're dealing with this kid that you also don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's just so strange, these choices. But then there's a lot of really good creative choices that I like.
Yeah.
The way that they show and unveil this flashback of this horrific event, it looked fantastic. Christopher Young's score.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant throughout. Camera work, the way that Takako Fuji moves as Kayako.
Oh, yeah.
Her performance is brilliant and deserves a lot of praise.
Oh, yeah.
and honestly started the nightmares of many hunter children, at least at age 13 and 15. But I feel like there is so much to love here, but there is just such a strange thing about this film that a lot of it just does not fit right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I'm starting to have a little bit of a grudge with this film. But for me, I guess, instead of just repeating, and I did want to say that the use of real locations, being on location in Japan, I loved it so much.
Yeah.
Getting to see some of these cityscapes, getting to see some of these like side streets and everything, loved the hell out of it. The production design of this house is fantastic.
Yeah.
Not at any point do you feel like I'm not inside of a home right now.
Yes.
And it all is sold so well through the camera movement, through the lighting and the shadows. The switch in lighting between Karen being at this house right now and the flashback she experiences.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really great work here. Shimizu is an excellent director.
Yeah.
And I really want to go check out Ju-on again.
Definitely.
Yeah.
To kind of revisit it and see how I feel about it at my big age of, I believe I'm 33 now.
Right.
But for me, out of 10 sad and sinister spirits, I unfortunately will be going below 7, and I'm going to give The Grudge 6 sad and sinister spirits out of 10. I still enjoy a lot of this, and I will revisit it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there is some real problems.
Yeah.
Well, that's all from us at Podmortem. What would you rate The Grudge, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Twitter at the Podmortem. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and like our Stairhole Productions page on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Twitter at Blood and Smoke, at RealStreeter84, and at TravisMWH. Thank you again to Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Please consider pledging to our Patreon, where you'll get bonus content, our monthly schedule, access to our Discord server, and the opportunity to help us decide which films to cover. And if you're looking for Podmortem or Stairhole Productions merch, follow the link in our episode notes. Please stay tuned until after the music for a special shout out to our Wendigo Getter patrons. And remember, protect yourself and your energy from those who mean to disrupt it. You never know what kind of impact you may be leaving behind. Until next time. Thank you for staying tuned for a special shout out to our Wendigo Getter patrons.
Woo! Yeah!
Very good. A special thank you to
Chris Ontiveros, Kristen Lofton, Megan Martinez, Kimberly Bass, Sophie Hodson, Anthony Jerome M., Jordan Nash, Kent Morton, Lala Tamez, Travis Anissa Hunter, Miguel Myers ATX, Jennifer Perez, Allison O'Neill, Carissa, TJ and Angie Bronson, Gabrielle Trevino, Spooky Mom, Applin Ontiveros, Karima Rhodes, Antonio Huerta, Kimberly Kleindienst, Will Brown, Sydney Smith, Osvaldo Soto, Bobby Holmes, Donna Eason, JD Rezak, Molly Gerhard, Armand Spasto, Aaron Aguirre, Eggy, William Berry, Brittany Seaman, Charity Oxner, Amanda Six, Mandy Rainwater, Jordan Roberts, Dylan, Liz Heath, Spencer Montavo, Pancake the Panda, John Ramos, Michael Newting, Alexis Roberts, Dan Laveau, Itzy M, Gary Horton, Leisha Olivier, Kate Lamp, Carlos and Sydney, Jessica Hunter, Helena Rudder, Alan Johnston, Mariah, Livy Fun, Scott Troutman Wise, Towton Watson, Mozzie Bear, Brittany G, Dave Burke, Adrian Stakes, Daniel McGinnis, Nick Spill, Emma Hagel Kissinger, Valerie G, Emiliana, Brian Glass, CB, Taylor Santana, Will Lewison, Angelique, Smelly Poo Poo Head, Beth Bauer,
Cookie, Esperanza J, Jason Kyle, OKC, Danielle Peralta, Brandon, Sawyer Reese Farr, Dr. Diva Loves Horror, Girl That's Scary, Cassandra, Andrea Simmons, Ashley Higuera, William and Xxena Rush, Ryan Brom, Megan Ochoa, Laura Lassiter, Eileen O, Marissa E, Sydney, Henry F, Megan M, Strangely Sarah, Christy Beck, Nancy and Andy, Amanda Lopez, Andy Terrell, Jason Hanovan, Katie K, Erica Morin, Cameron S, Nicole Stewart, Tris Wynn, K.87, Mariah Jensen, Lonnie Lono, Powell, Kayla E, Maggie H, Murder Stina, No Thanks Tom Hanks, Kevin McGonigal, Kristen Marcy, Ori81 Boricua, Look Like That One Girl, Bog Boy, Felnez 63, Alita Pui, Probably My Jugs, Kate Thackeray, Wade Pack, A Lizard, Bay J, Jay Rich, Jen Lasseter, Topher Williams, Elena Metler, Jean Jacket, Valerie Kay, Christy Lee Kruger, Professor of Humanities Laura McCarricker, Naomi, Josh Smith,
Abby Kopp, Crystal 831, Skank Sinatra, Morgan Alexander, Tony Osteen, Julie Fredborg, Rihanna S., Daniel Taylor, Anna Kate, Heather Ortiz, Jen T., Kim H., August, Vengeance Spirit, Sam J. Green, Kelly Glazyface Mac, Jenny May, Zoe Marie, Glittery Fab, Malik Caselli Armstrong, Scarly D., Toya Shea, Katie, Martin Shaw, Star, Tyler J., Daniel Dickerson, Jordan Gaddis, Cam Davies, Patrick Hoagland, Raven, King Roger, D., Wesley Tart, Kristen Jackson, Jacob Nordberg, Spencer, Samantha, Damian Grant, Half Price Horror, Clemmy, Nisi Nay, Erica, Jason X Rules, Karen Burrows, 203 Duncan, Aaron Norman, Stephen Rogers, Victoria Smith, Corey Gillen, Patricia A. Graham, Erasmo Peña, Danielle Wright, Bud Hates Mushrooms, Tabitha Thomas, Connie Lingus, Becca Boo, Richard Murray, Irene, and Sally Slater 52. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all. We appreciate you so much.
Yes, and I know y'all voted this one in, so if you disagree with our review, we really hope you don't hold a grudge.
Please love us.
Until next time.